Little Egg still murmured while caressing his round belly, "Little dragon, you ate too much. You even ate Little Egg's portion, I can't get full. This brat is getting more and more overbearing, relying on my spiritual pets and Little Purple's pamper." Hershey smiled as she condensed water's spiritual power and washed his greasy skin. Before Little Golden Dragon could speak, there was another beast roar suddenly. Obviously, the aroma of food here had attracted other magical beasts. Little Golden Dragon and Little Egg were terrified by the roar at all. Instead, they immediately brightened their eyes, looking at the two figures coming quickly from the far distance. One big and one small black bears. Little Golden Dragon swallowed his saliva and murmured, "Master, you said that bear's paw is very delicious food, right? I can try it this time." Little Egg touched Little Purple, who was on the head of Little Egg, and pointed at the big bear. "Auntie Little Purple, take down the big bear. You drink blood and I eat meat. A good future is waiting for us." Then, without waiting for Hershey to speak, the purple vines rose into the sky and turned multiple vine shadows in the air. The two magical beasts charged as they roared. Hershey held her temples in pain. These reckless guys. Do they know that these two are rank 5 magical beasts? It would work out if it was a 3 versus 1, but if it was a 3 versus 2, they would be defeated utterly. As expected, after a while, Little Egg covered his head that was scratched by a rock and wailed as he ran back, "Woo-woo. Mom, the big bear bullied me, you have to revenge for me." Hershey took out her Li Shui word without saying anything. The paths of the sword strikes appeared like rainfall. At the end of the battle, the big bear was decapitated. Its body was sliced into 3 chunks. On the other hand, Little Golden Dragon and Little Purple also joined forces to put the little black bear down. From the beginning to the end, Little Egg, who didn't do anything, ran over and kissed Hershey's ass. "Mom, you are so powerful. Little Egg really admires you the most." Hershey tapped on his little head, and she couldn't help laughing. In the next few days, Hershey and these few guys killed a lot of magical beasts, but they never encountered other martial artists. Hershey only had the map of the rank 3 and 4 magical beast. She didn't know what was her location now, so she could only aimlessly move forward. The 3 little ones were having fun on the road, but the magical beasts in Breaking Spirit Mountain were miserable. Almost every day, 2 or 3 rank 5 magical beasts were killed in Hershey's hands. Their skins were peeled and their blood was drained, then they were being cooked into delicious dishes. Little Egg and Little Golden Dragon actually didn't get bored for eating so much meat, but they became more and more addicted. Especially after several actual combat experiences, the cooperation of the 3 little ones became more and more tacit. The ordinary rank 5 magical beasts were not their opponents at all. Only when encountering magical beasts that were particularly fierce and flexible, such as the powerful rank 5 magical beasts like the 8-armed ape, they would cry for Hershey's help. In an instant, Hershey wandered in the Breaking Spirit Mountain for 3 days, and the number of monster essence pills she gained increased at a terrible rate. At the same time, Hershey also felt that she was stronger day by day. In the battle with magical beasts, she slowly integrated the lessons learned in the sword array. Even now, even if she was fighting a high-level martial artist at the Gold Core stage, she was confident that she had the power to fight. It was just that something that made the party depressed occurred. Not sure if it was because they were so fierce that even the magical beast that lost its mind also felt threatened. There were no more magical beasts appeared in front of them. Little Egg was very unhappy as he didn't eat any fresh magical beast's meat for 3 days. Suddenly, Little Egg's keen eyes found a magical beast with odd shape not far from them. The most important thing was that this magical beast's size was similar to him, and the magical beast didn't have strong coercion at all. Little Egg immediately became excited. Although she followed Little Purple and Little Golden Dragon to fight magical beasts every day, in fact, he was terrified when the magical beast appeared. He didn't dare to fight at all, he could only cheer and observe by the side at most. Little Egg always thought that he was the most powerful child of his mom. Since his mother was so powerful, how could he be so useless? Therefore, despite Little Egg having a full stomach these few days, he still felt sad in his heart. I also want to fight a magical beast alone. I want Mom to look at me differently. He didn't dare to fight big magical beast, but now there was a small magical beast for him to fight, at least so that he could show off this time. Therefore, Little Egg was delighted when he saw this magical beast with odd shape. Such a small beast without a powerful spirit pressure, this beast was tailored for him. Little Egg glanced at Heshi and Little Golden Dragon, who were meditating with their eyes closed, and then snickered twice, approaching the little magical beast secretly. When he was only 2 steps away from the little magical beast, Little Egg pounced on it excitedly. Caught you dash. However, the expected scene where the little magical beast was struggling after being subdued by him did not appear. Little Egg fell into the lawn. He was so painful that his pig nose and mouth were wrinkled. The magical beast turned around and saw that a pair of small green bean-like eyes were looking straight at it not far away. The ugly nose was even moving up and down as if it had met something that made it excited. Little Egg reluctantly muttered, "It's impossible that I can't even catch such a magical beast." As he spoke, he was about to pounce on that little magical beast again. Who knows? Before he could move, the little magical beast sprang up suddenly and leaped toward Little Egg. Little Egg was caught off guard. He was put down by the little magical beast on the ground. He cried with his back on the ground, "Mom, help. Little Egg is going to get eaten, woo woo." However, what made Little Egg unexpected was that the little magical beast did not eat it, but it lay on Little Egg and kept licking its face and neck. Little Egg was stunned first as he couldn't react at first, then he cried and pushed the magical beast away, crawling quickly to the direction of Heshi. Heshi was awakened by the cries for help, and she quickly got up. Seeing Little Egg's 4 feet were on the ground, sprinting at full speed toward her. He cried as he sprinted. Behind Little Egg was a similarly short-legged magical beast. It was grunting white gas from its mouth, and a pair of small eyes like green bean were particularly shiny. Little Egg's speed was considered to be extremely fast, which was like a lightning, but the magical beast's speed was actually faster than Little Egg. Without waiting for Little Egg to run back to Heshi, it leaped and thumped the egg to the ground. Heshi's face changed. As the Li Shui sword in her hand was about to strike, she was shocked by the scene in front of her. She saw that not only the magical beast didn't bite Little Egg, it even climbed onto Little Egg. It kept licking Little Egg's stomach and face. Heshi was petrified. What is the situation? Little Egg was struggling under that little magical beast and crying, "Go away, you ugly. Woo-woo. Mom, save me quickly." Heshi stood stiff for a while, only then she took a few steps and caught Little Egg's small leg, saving him out of the magical beast's clutch. The little magical beast was took off by Heshi from Little Egg. It fell to the ground and rolled clumsily, then it looked up at Heshi and Little Egg with a stupid face. A pair of green bean-like eyes were full of desire and grievances, but Heshi only wanted to laugh seeing this. Because this little magical beast was really too clumsy. The clumsiness was even mixed with cuteness. This magical beast was round with 4 small short and slim legs as if they could not support its body at any time. Its face was very short. It was like its entire face was flattened by someone. Its nose was tilted up, which made it look like a small bulldog, but those green bean-like eyes made it lose the fierceness of the bulldog, leaving only a silly and cute look. After Little Egg was rescued by Heshi, he instantly turned into the child who had suffered a grievance and he could finally complain to his parent or teacher. He wailed as he said, "Woo-woo. Mom, it is molesting me. Help me defeat it quickly, woo-woo." When the little magical beast heard Little Egg's cry, it became very anxious. It lay on Heshi's leg, making a weeping sound as if it was trying to comfort Little Egg. Heshi whispered, "Don't be afraid, Little Egg. You see, he is just trying to be friendly with you. He didn't bite you at all, right? Woo-woo. I don't want to see it. It is so ugly, and it even licked me." Little Egg hugged Heshi's neck and didn't want to give up. He was sobbing as he said, "I'm still a virgin. The places that it licked were polluted. Woo-woo. Mom, Help me wash quickly. Heshi's mouth twitched again. This kid gives me more and more trouble. You're even a virgin, and you even despised it for being ulgy. How old is he? He already knows how to judge other by appearance. Ugh, it's so troublesome. Heshi transfigured water's spiritual power and washed Little Egg, only then Little Egg was satisfied. At this time, Little Purple and Xiaolong also stopped cultivation and rushed over. Little Golden Dragon said, Little Egg, who dares to bully you? I will help you to punish them. Little Egg immediately shouted at the little magical beast, I hate this ugly monster. Chase it away, now. Little Purple and Little Golden Dragon didn't hesitate as they heard him. Purple vines immediately flew toward the insignificant little magical beast. Heshi could see that the little magical beast's strength was definitely not low, and it was not hostile to them, so she was trying to stop Little Golden Dragon and Purple Abyss Vine. However, when she saw the fighting scene, she was relieved. Because the ugly little magical beast didn't fight back or run away, but no matter how fierce Little Purple and Little Golden Dragon attacked, it could still dodge all of them. Moreover, it didn't look away from Little Egg throughout the whole process. The obsessed maid look even made Heshi have a toothache by just looking at it. Heshi held the little egg in her arms and touched his little head and laughed, Little Egg, I see that you have met an avid admirer, and its strength seems to be very high. Maybe even Mom can't be its opponent. Why not you just let it be? Heshi was joking about this, but Little Egg took it seriously. He made a loud cry and shouted, Bad Mom. Then he glanced at Little Purple and Little Golden Dragon secretly, they really couldn't deal with the ugly beast. Little Egg was really frightened this time, thinking that he was really going to make an engagement. Without waiting for Heshi to say anything, he immediately hid into the void, hiding himself in the corner of the Spirit Void Palace. No matter how Heshi called, he just wouldn't come out. Heshi couldn't help laughing. She called Purple Abyss Vine and Little Golden Dragon back. Little Golden Dragon just said that he wanted to help Little Egg to punish the bullier, but he didn't expect to not touch his opponent at all after a long fight. He was angry and embarrassed, so he hid into the void and didn't want to come out. The ugly cute little magical beast saw Little Egg disappeared from its sight, and it was suddenly anxious. It kept making weeping sound, running toward Heshi and circling her non-stop. When Heshi drove it away, it stared dumbfounded with its two green bean-like eyes. Its eyes even looked foggy, filling with desire and grievance. Heshi suddenly felt like she was an evil mother-in-law who broke up a destined couple. She couldn't stand being watched by it, so she had to turn and run. But who knows, the speed of this small magical beast was incredibly fast, and internal spiritual force was extremely powerful. No matter how fast Heshi was, it could actually keep up. Besides, it wasn't making any noise along the way, it was just weeping. When Heshi was busy fighting with a few magical beasts, it would even come to help Heshi disrupting those magical beasts. Because this small magical beast had been following Heshi, Little Egg had been hiding in the void for a while and refused to come out. Little Golden Dragon and Little Purple naturally stayed in the void to accompany him. Poor Heshi now had to fight magical beast alone. After defeating the magical beast, she had to send the cooked food into the void for the three little kids to enjoy. On the contrary, this stupid little magical beast, although foolish, it was particularly well behaved. It would even help Heshi to fight the magical beast. Heshi remembered that the magical beasts in Breaking Spirit Mountain are all insane, but this little magical beast was stupid, but it obviously had a little intellectual. Not sure what kind of mutation it was. Heshi sometimes felt pity for it, so she gave it some cooked food. The small magical beast looked at the food in a silly manner, its green bean-like eyes looked like crying. It took a long time for him to start eating the food. After eating, it was even more clingy toward Heshi and refused to leave. This made Little Egg in the void keep crying and rolling, saying that his mother did not love him anymore. Heshi was also helpless. She didn't know how to get rid of this little thing. She could only hope that when she leaves this Breaking Spirit Mountain, this brat wouldn't follow her anymore. The time of big hunting match was 1 month in total. After 1 month, the teleportation circles in various places would be activated, which also indicated the end of the competition. This was Heshi's 7th day in breaking Spirit Mountain, and at this time, her rank 5 magical beast essence pill in the storage bag had reached a terrifying amount. As he went deeper and deeper into breaking Spirit Mountain's side, Heshi encountered more and more magical beasts, and they were relatively more brutal. But strangely, she didn't encounter any martial artists who also came to the competition. On this day, she killed 3 rank 5 golden leopards in one breath, and the spiritual power in her body was almost exhausted. Just after taking a sip of 9 ghost springs, she was planning to meditate with her knees crossed. However, Heshi's heart suddenly came a hint of annoyance. It was just that before Heshi could react to the unknown feeling, a strong spiritual power suddenly shrouded her. A low, arrogant male voice with a little amusement sounded slowly in his ears. "I finally caught you, Shiyu." Heshi was suddenly shocked. She struck her Li Shui sword at her back without thinking, then she backflipped, escaping the pressure that made her suffocate. It was just that this moment of relaxation did not let Heshi breathe a sigh of relief. She looked at the figure appearing in front of her eyes, and her face became extremely ugly. "Feng Yunjing, why are you here?" The person was Feng Yunjing. At this time, he was wearing a dark blue robe embroidered silver silk, his hair was bound by a jade crest and tassels were drooping, his clothes were blown up by the breeze in the mountains which made him look superior. His features were originally sharp, but at this time, with the amusement in his eyes, he looked a little elegant. Feng Yunjing was really in a good mood at this time. In Big Hunting Match, he was responsible for the monitoring of the rank 5 magical beast and the security of the martial artists in the West District, so he manipulated in the inscribed teleportation jade slip and sent Heshi to the West District. However, the area of the Breaking Spirit Mountain was extremely large. Even if it was only the west part of the rank 5 magical beast, there were also countless mountain ranges. It was not easy to find someone in it. Feng Yunjing got the news from the Ouyang family before entering Breaking Spirit Mountain. He originally planned to find Ouyang Haoshuan first, but he was worried that Shiyu's strength was too weak, and she would be injured for staying alone in the rank 5 magical beast area. Therefore, he specifically ordered several disciples of the Feng family to control Shiyu first when they met her in the rank 5 magical beast area. However, Feng Yunjing did not expect that he and Shiyu were so destined. He was just wandering around randomly, looking for the trace of Ouyang Haoshuan, but he didn't expect to encounter Shiyu himself, and she was still intact. Does this mean that Shiyu should belong to him? Feng Yunjing stared at Heshi not far away with gleaming eyes, only to see that there was a lot of dust on her body, and there was blood on the clothes of magical beast. However, these did not affect her superb beauty at all. Smooth and fair skin, long eyebrows like mountain, watery eyes. If she were to put up women's makeup, her beauty could make a country fall for it. Feng Yunjing had never put women in his eyes before, and he was even disgusted by the delicate and tender women around her father. In his eyes, women are just men's accessories, a little embellishment on their hegemony. If he likes, he could summon them immediately. If he doesn't like, he would kick them away like an animal. When the next time he went to recruit bride, the women would crawl toward him and lick his feet like an animal. However, the appearance of Shiyu changed his mind. Whether Shiyu was male or female, this person had elicited his desire to conquer him or her. The more he couldn't get it, the more he longed for it, and the more he couldn't help himself. Feng Yunjing slowly raised the corner of his mouth and spoke to Heshi. "Do you want to come here obediently or you want me to catch you myself?" His eyes seemed to flash a fiery flame. He arrogantly assessed Heshi from top to bottom, as if he was stripping her clothes with his sight. "If you obediently come into my arms, I can still be gentle to you. If you are still ungrateful, then don't blame me for being rude." The moment Heshi saw Feng Yunjing appeared, she was channeling her spiritual power in her body. Fortunately, she drank Joyo Lingquan in time. She had now recovered 70% to 80% of her strength. Hearing Feng Yunjing's words and facing his predatory gaze, Heshi's eyes flashed a coldness. She said coldly, "Of course, I will come to kill you." As soon as she spoke, she rose up into the air. She slashed her Li Shui sword in the air, the edge of the sword was whistling in the air. Feng Yunjing chuckled and said leisurely, "Do you think you are still in the smoke cloud array? This little trick, I don't even need to use my artifact." Seeing the sword light trajectories flying toward him like rain, Feng Yunjing's figure suddenly disappeared on the spot. Sword light trajectories were knocked to the ground and stirred up the dust. Heshi felt that it was bad through her instinct, then a hand suddenly appeared and caught her hair. Feng Yunjing's teasing and humiliating voice resounded in her ears, "Shiyu, which man's hair will be as smooth and soft as you, and it also exudes a faint fragrance. I am addicting to it by just smelling it." Heshi spun her body, and she immediately extended her hand to cut her hair. She was retreating quickly. During the struggle, the long hair originally held up with a wooden crown fell down and flew in the wind. The long black hair paired with a jade face in a palm size made her look so delicate and tender, tempting people to humiliate her badly. Feng Yunjing also held a cut of Heshi's hair in his hands, looking at her look in long hair. His eyes were full of surprise and lust. He raised his hand, slightly lowered his head and sniffed the broken hair in his hand. His voice became slightly hoarse, "Shiyu, I have never been infatuated with any woman like I am infatuated with you. As long as you are willing to be my people obediently, I will let you take the position of the young lady of Feng family. In the future, you will even be the mistress of Feng family, holding mighty power." Heshi sneered, her face was frosty, "I'm sorry, even if the position of Feng family's young lady is high, I'm afraid I can't accept it. Because I'm so sick of facing you every day." Feng Yunjing smirked and sneered, "You reject me now, because you still have Nangongyu as a choice. Do you think Nangongyu is better than me, and King of Hell Mansion is more worthy to affiliate than our Feng family? Hee, Shiyu, your vision is too narrow. One day, I will kill Nangongyu and make the King of Hell Mansion disappear in history. Wouldn't you belong to me again by then? But then, you can only become my exclusive beauty and pet, instead of the high-profile mistress of the Feng family. Can't you figure it out?" Heshi held up her sword and said coldly, "You want to kill Nangongyu? Hee, Feng Yunjing, you think very highly of yourself too much." As she spoke halfway, she drew a circle in midair with her Shui Li sword. Sword chi condensed a little at the center of the circle, and then suddenly turned into a dragon sword shadow rising into the sky, striking straight at Feng Yunjing. Feng Yunjing's face turned gloomy. He transfigured a light ball in his hand, covering the dragon sword shadow that was charging at him. He sneered, "Shiyu, don't use this little trick in front of me." Before he could finish speaking, Feng Yunjing's expression suddenly changed. His figure stepped back like a phantom. But he was still a step too late. His gaze seemed to be bone-chilling. He reached out and slowly stroked his left face. There was a long and narrow scar, and there was a spooky purple gas around the scar. Heshi stood still, panting and holding an inconspicuous dagger in her hand. It was just that there was a strange purple light on the edge of this dagger, which was showing that the dagger had poison on it. Feng Yunjing looked directly at Heshi. His voice was low and soft, but it seemed to be brewing the storm. "Shiyu, every time I see you, you can always give me unexpected surprises. However, my patience is limited. Since you are ungrateful, then don't blame me for being rude." After that, the spiritual power on his body suddenly skyrocketed. The purple gas that was on the wound was instantly shrouded by powerful spiritual power. The purple venom was devoured by the spiritual power until nothing was left as if it had encountered its nemesis. And Feng Yunjing's face no longer had a hint of playing mouse and cat. It became an inevitable crazy overbearing. Heshi's heart sank a little. As expected, facing Feng Yunjing, she couldn't resist at all. Even the venom that was deadly for the low-level martial artists, could only make Feng Yunjing feel a little painful. Between Meridian stage and nascent soul stage, it was an insurmountable distance. Feng Yunjing's spiritual power slowly condensed into a thick black mist. Then a familiar black flag rose into the sky, hovering in the sky and becoming larger. The whole world seemed to be shrouded by a dark cloud which brought a spine-chilling coldness. Hexie's face was gloomy. She cast a fire spiritual power in her hand and launched it at the black flag in the air. The pale golden fire spiritual power entangled a corner of the flagpole. It seemed to burn the flag a bit. But soon, the thick black mist swallowed up the fire spiritual power. Hexie didn't expect the fire spiritual power to hurt Feng Yunjing. As Feng Yunjing's attention was put on the Rakshasa flag, she pointedly Shui's sword into the sky and struck straight toward Feng Yunjing. Feng Yunjing commanded the black mist to devour the fire spiritual power. When he looked back at the close-distance sword strike, he wasn't afraid. He showed a mocking smile on the corner of his mouth instead. Hexie watched as the sword tip was about to pierce Feng Yunjing's chest, but she suddenly felt a stun in his heart. Then a creepy breath appeared behind her, a steady breath that was nearby her, it was almost clinging to her back. Feng Yunjing disappeared like a phantom without a trace, but behind her, a tall shadow slowly appeared. Hexie was horrified. As she wanted to run away, she suddenly found out that a chilling black gas had already penetrated her limbs and bones. It was like a black chain that locked her limbs, making her unable to move. What's more terrifying was that this chilling black gas didn't stop. It slowly penetrated from her bloodline into her dantian. 1. For a time, the spiritual power that she was brewing couldn't be channeled anymore, as if it was frozen. Hexie was blanched by the cold black gas. She bit her teeth. Feng Yunjing, what did you do to me? Feng Yunjing's quiet laughter came from behind her with a great deal of teasing and contentment. Hexie could feel Feng Yunjing taking a step forward, then he grabbed her waist with one hand from behind, dragging her into a hot embrace. Feng Yunjing's lips were half closed to her ear, and he said slowly with a hoarse voice. I think you should be familiar with this Rakshasa flag, right? In Smoke Cloud Array, you've seen its power. But I couldn't channel spiritual power at that time, so the power of Rakshasa flag could not be exerted by even 0.0001%. 1. https://en. Wikipedia. org/wiki/dantian. Rakshasa flag is an artifact made by sacrificing thousands of magical beasts' wraith. The wraiths in it were all fierce magical beasts that died after a lot of torture and pain. In addition to being unable to resist me, they are very cruel. So you better don't act rashly, otherwise, your spiritual power will be devoured by these wraiths if it is a minor case, or your dantian will be devoured if it is a serious case. Hexie did feel the violent tyranny of the wraiths wandering around dantian. The icy coldness eroded her body, making her face whiter again. Feng Yunjing, what on earth do you want to do? Don't you understand what do I want to do? Feng Yunjing chuckled. He suddenly gave her a princess hug. Looking at her delicate transparent face, his scorching eyes were slowly getting lustful. Shiyu, I want you to be mine. Since you are not willing to follow me, then I will possess your body first. Hehe, do you think Nangong Yu will still want you when he knows that you are mine? Shameless. Hexie raised her hand and threw it fiercely at Feng Yunjing's face. However, her palm just touched Feng Yunjing's face, then she felt cold and stiffness for a while. Her hand could only drop down helplessly. Feng Yunjing sneered, in this world, there is only the law of jungle. How is that shameful? Feng Yunjing will get whatever I want. Especially you Shiyu. Then, Feng Yunjing placed Hexie's body on a flat rock. Facing Hexie's angry look that was going to devour people, Feng Yunjing's hand slowly pressed on her clothes, then he pressed hard with his palm. Listening only to the tearing sound, the tough and strong clothes were shattered mercilessly. The rags flew gently in the air. After the clothes were torn, it revealed a corset vest that exuded spiritual power. The vest was embroidered with pale gold matrix patterns. It wrapped Hexie's petite body tightly. Hexie's body shape could be seen at all. Feng Yunjing's eyes brightened. Despite he already had speculations, his heart was still filled with ecstasy. Before Hashi struggled, his hand rested on the corset vest. He channeled his spiritual power and quickly destroyed the defensive array on the vest. The corset vest was shattered, revealing the exquisite body in a white robe. Feng Yunjing looked at the scene in front of him and took a breath. His eyes were stunned due to the stunning scene. The girl who was lying on the brown-gray rock had a hair like a waterfall. Her dark hair was complemented with the crystal-clear white skin. Her lips also became more pink and pink because of anger, bringing a sense of enchanting someone. The girl had only a thin blouse with a slightly open neckline, exposing a delicate white collarbone. The curve of the collarbone slowly extended below the neckline. It was like a mysterious line that led people to search for a secluded area. Under the clothes was the exquisite body that could no longer be hidden. The graceful body shape with the youthfulness of a girl and the beauty of a woman. Even the best painters couldn't draw such a magnificent scene. She had smooth and fair skin, and she could make everyone fall for her. Although she wasn't bewitching, she was still very attractive. Feng Yunjing's eyes stared at the delicate girl body like an art in front of his eyes. His voice was exceptionally hoarse because of his desire. Such a perfect body. Did Nangong Yu ever see you like this? Hashi stared at the man in front of him desperately, trying to struggle, but she could do nothing more than accelerating the corrosion of Dantian by the wraiths. She was stricken, her eyes were bloodshot. Feng Yunjing, kill me if you dare, otherwise, I will tear your body into pieces one day and make you pay thousands of times for what you did today. Feng Yunjing watched her blushed cheeks because of her anger, only to feel that it was a gorgeous peach color like a mutton fat jade, also known as nephrite. 1. He gently touched Hashi's face and let out a hoarse laughter. Kill you? How can I be willing to do it? Shiyu, do you know that the angrier you are, the more charming this face is, which let me have the greater desire to possess you. As he said, his hand grabbed Hashi's placket. He was going to tear her underwear away. Suddenly, a glimmer of cold light came suddenly, slashing ruthlessly at Feng Yunjing. Feng Yunjing responded very quickly and retreated quickly, but the clothes at his chest was still torn, leaving a shallow wound. Hashi stood up from the rock. She had lost her balance, but her eyes were like the fiercest beast, staring at Feng Yunjing momentarily. Feng Yunjing looked at the wound on his chest, but he didn't feel angry. Instead, he looked at Hashi banteringly. His experience was like teasing with a little pet. You are really worthy of being my woman. The result is very clear now, but your little claw is still sharp. But Shiyu, don't you know? The more you resist, the more excited I am. As soon as he spoke, Feng Yunjing reached out his hand and Hashi's body flew toward him involuntarily. Feng Yunjing embraced her soft body into his arms. The sky was still shrouded in black flags as if this area was isolated into another world. People inside this area had no connection to the world outside. Feng Yunjing pressed Hashi on her body, feeling the fragrance from the girl's body. His eyes became blurred and red because of lust. He stroked the girl's silky face lightly, his voice was dull, and his breath was short. Shiyu, you are so beautiful. As long as you obediently become my woman, I will treat you better than Nangong Yu. I will let you take the mistress position of the Feng family, letting you be jealous of all the women in Miluo continent. Shiyu, give me everything you have. With that said, Feng Yunjing was about to bow his head and kiss deeply toward the red lips. But all of a sudden, his face changed. His spiritual powers suddenly emanated from his body. But it was a step too late, and purple vines wrapped around his neck tightly, leaving him unable to move for a while. Hashi, who was paralyzed and unable to move under him, suddenly grabbed his shoulder and kicked toward his crotch. Feng Yunjing suddenly felt pain, moaning silently. At the same time, because he had loosened his focus, and the lethal threat of purple abyss vine, the black gas of the wraiths was dispersed immediately, and then went back to Feng Yunjing. Hashi took the opportunity to roll on the spot, and she retreated to a few hundred feet away. At the same time, the spiritual power in her body exploded. The whole person left a few feet away. At the same time, the spiritual power in the body multiplied and cleansed the wraith's black gas away. At this time Feng Yunjing had broken away from Purple Abyss Vine, but his face turned blue. The purple vines shattered to the ground. Even the main vines were wounded, it obviously suffered a lot of damage. Just as He stood firm, she felt two small figures flashing beside her. There was a sobbing voice from Little Egg due to excessive worry. "Mom, are you okay? Woo-woo. Mom, why don't you let us out? I'm so worried about you." 1. https://en. Wikipedia. org/wiki/nephrite. He glanced at the sinister Feng Yunjing who wasn't far away and the black flag in the sky, then she immediately shouted in a lowered tone, "Little Egg, you and the little golden dragon return immediately. Don't come out without my order. I don't want." Little Egg shouted, and wailed. "I don't want to watch my mother be injured anymore, but I can do nothing. I don't want to be a child without a mother." She had a heartache, but she still said sternly, "Little Egg, you don't listen to your mom anymore? If you don't go back, do you believe that mom will abandon you all? Little golden dragon, did you hear me? I command you as the master to take Little Egg back immediately." She was not sure if she could escape Feng Yunjing's clutches, and she was full of fear and disgust at Feng Yunjing's filthy mind. However, she was more afraid of the little ones she valued, taking irreparable damage. Little Egg cried even more fiercely. He was out of breath, his tears even flowed non-stop. Little golden dragon soared in the air. At this moment, there was no more arrogance and ridicule in his tone, there was only dignity. "Boss, even if I have to violate command order, even if you want to terminate the contract with me, I still have to disobey your command this time. We are going to stay and fight alongside you." She wanted to talk, but Little Golden Dragon interrupted her immediately. "Boss, I know we are not strong enough, and I know you are worried about our safety, but we are your spiritual pet. If our master is in danger, and the spiritual pets aren't around, then we aren't worthy of being a fighting spiritual pet. How can we live up to our contract of life and death? Boss, don't say it again. I will never go back to the void. If we live together. If we die together." Little Egg cried, holding a small paw and sobbing, "Little dragon is right, Mom. If we live together. If we die together." Purple Abyss Vine, on the other side, also shook its wounded purple vines and wrapped around Heshi's wrist. Heshi was shocked. She only felt a slight warm current blooming in her heart, then it permeated into her blood. The light in her eyes suddenly flashed. She took a deep breath and nodded as she spoke. "Okay, if we live together. If we die together. Live together, die together." Feng Yunjing's sinister laughter suddenly came from not far away. "It also depends on whether I will give you the chance to live and die together." Little Egg suddenly said furiously, "You shameless old man. You are obviously around 70 years old, you are ugly and old, but you dare to marry my mom. Who do you think you are? You aren't even worth it to serve me, you shameless pervert." "That's right." Little Golden Dragon went along loudly immediately. "Boss has obviously rejected you, but you still pestering her. Are all members of the Feng family like this? They can't find any partner, so they can only steal and force others to marry? This kind of shameless family might as well be extinct." Little Egg stomped its short legs as he said excitedly, "This kind of person is obviously lack of calcium during childhood, lack of love after growing up. Grandmother didn't bother him and uncles didn't love him. Anybody would bully him if they see him. Letting him live is just wasting the oxygen, letting him eat is wasting the food, burying him into the soil after death will also pollute the soil. Scum like him should be burned into ashes, then flush it into the latrine, stinking and smoking him to death." Little Golden Dragon was stunned by the speech. Heshi's mouth corner was even twitching. They didn't know how to react to this little one's speech. As Little Egg's IQ gets higher and higher, he seemed to have better memory of what he had seen before. This kind of shrewd words was one of them. Of course, the most ugly face definitely belonged to Feng Yunjing. His eyes seemed to have quenched the most terrible poison, staring at He and these little ones. He said word by word sinisterly, "Shiyu, congratulations, you have successfully angered me. Or do you think that with these little animals, you can compete with me? Hehe, since the little animals around you are so desperate to find death, I will fulfill their wish." As soon as the words were out, Feng Yunjing pointed at the Rakshasa flag in the air with one finger. The huge Rakshasa flag was spinning constantly, bringing up a cold hurricane. For a while, the grass spun around, and the black gas was blowing. He and the several little ones were staggered by the wind. Immediately afterward, a huge black shadow suddenly emerged from the black flag, flying toward Little Egg. The shadow had a ghost-like cry. Everywhere it went, the plants was withered, and even the fertile land became sand. Little Egg was stunned by this situation. He screamed in shock, "Mom!" He quickly drew a light with her sword, enveloping Little Egg. However, Purple Abyss Vine was faster than her. The purple vines rose into the sky, quickly covering up in front of Little Egg and He. After a loud bang, the black shadow hit the purple vine, but in the blink of an eye, the original tender purple leaves withered. Even the branches fell down one by one. Even the tender little purple seedling in He's sea of consciousness was withered at this moment as if it would lose its vitality any time. Little Purple Dash. Aunt Little Purple Dash. Little Egg wailed, trying to rush out of He's light shield to see the withered purple abyss vine. However, at this time, the black gas was blocked by Purple Abyss Vine and then dissipated, but Feng Yunjing was already in front of it. He had a long sword with cold light in his hand, chopping down at He's light shield. He concentrated all his spiritual power on Li Shui's sword, preparing to make her last stand. "Boss, you and Little Egg must take care and live well." The sound of Little Golden Dragon suddenly came to their ears, then he rose into the sky after a dragon roar. Little Golden Dragon's entire body suddenly turned into a huge flying dragon, slamming into Feng Yunjing's long sword fiercely. Just listening to the thunderous roar, Feng Yunjing stepped back quickly. He stumbled a few steps before he could stand firm. On He's side, the little golden dragon recovered its original shape and dropped from the air. He twitched a few times, then passed out. Under his body, the shocking blood was slowly flowing. Little dragon. Little dragon, don't die. Little Egg was crying as he shouted the name of Little Golden Dragon. He wanted to rush out of He's light shield, but He held him tightly. He bit her lips. Her eyes flushed. There seemed to be crystal water droplets in her eyes. Her gaze looked at Feng Yunjing not far away. Her eyes were full of brutal murderous intentions. As expected, Feng Yunjing recovered immediately after he stood still. The long sword that was mixed with the vibe of spiritual power struck ruthlessly at He's light shield. The silvery light shook violently as if it would burst at any time. Feng Yunjing chuckled, "It's just a sword energy shield of the Foundation establishment stage. I see how long you can last." Seeing that the second sword was about to land, suddenly a huge meatball hit Feng Yunjing fiercely at the speed. Feng Yunjing was caught off guard. He was actually knocked back by it. He fell back for few hundred feet before he stood firm. His mouth corner was bleeding, and his face looked a little pale. His face was so gloomy that it could even drip water. He was shocked by this sudden change. When the huge meatball regained its conscience, it tilted its head at He. The pair of green bean-like eyes were blinking. It revealed a silly smile. He screamed, "Little dumb cow." Little dumb cow was the name He gave to the ugly cute little magical beast these days. She called it Little Dumb Cow because she just wanted to tease this dumb and adorable little magical beast, but who knows, the little magical beast was so excited when it heard it. It whirled around her feet for several turns while making exciting screams. When Heshi called, "Little dumb cow, eat," afterward, the small magical beast was dumbfounded first for a moment, then it immediately flung its small short tail, ran to Heshi, and hit her toe. Heshi even exclaimed at the time. "How is it ugly cute bulldog? It's obviously a mutated little adorable dog." It was just that the little dumb cow looked really different from its usual look. At this point, his body that was initially the size of 2 palms inflated for dozens of times. It was like a gas-filled cowhide, defending Heshi and Little Egg behind it. Little dumb cow fought Feng Yunjing for a while. Apparently, it was injured, making the sound of air leaking. But when Heshi called its name, it immediately desperately shook its tail, which looked shorter at the moment, and gave Heshi a flattering smile. Immediately, Little dumb cow's eyes looked at Little Egg. The green bean-like eyes became a little brighter, showing a silly expression that was asking for praise and attention. Little Egg shrank his neck being stared by those eyes, but then he remembered that it saved him and his mother. He immediately extended her little paw and touched Little dumb cow. "Thank you. I didn't expect you to be so powerful despite of your ugly look." Little dumb cow froze as Little Egg took the initiation to touch it, then the green bean-like eyes turned white slowly. It seemed that it couldn't bear the surprise coming too fast. It was so excited that it almost fainted. But Heshi couldn't bother about the interaction of these two little ones at this time. Instead, she looked at Feng Yunjing. Feng Yunjing slowly wiped the blood on the corner of his mouth, and the corner of his mouth tilted slightly as if he was smiling, but his eyes looked grim and mad. "I didn't expect that an animal can even hurt me." "Good. Very good. Shiyu, don't you value your spiritual pets? I will kill them one by one in front of you. I'd like to see if you can still look at me with this expression. I want to see if you will kneel in front of me and beg me." Ha ha ha. As soon as the words were spoken, Feng Yunjing's spiritual power transferred into the black flag. The next moment, he saw 2 black lights shot from the black flag toward the unconscious little golden dragon on the ground and purple abyss vine who was already scattered. The little golden dragon and purple abyss vine were engulfed by the wraiths, and they flew toward Feng Yunjing. Little golden dragon was now dying, and purple abyss vine had suffered a fatal injury. If they fell into Feng Yunjing's hands, they would surely be dead. "Little golden dragon, Aunt Little Purple, come back." "Woo-woo," Little Egg cried and wanted to rush over. But he was held behind by Little dumb cow. At this moment, a whirl of green light was slowly condensing in the little dumb cow's body. As the light swirled, the green light in the body became larger and larger. At the same time, it kept making whining sound toward Little Egg and Heshi. It seemed to be telling something anxiously. Heshi stared at him, glanced at Little dumb cow, and whispered, "Take care of Little Egg, don't let him go." Heshi absolutely didn't allow Little Egg to take a little damage. As soon as she spoke, Heshi took the Li Shui sword and flew into the sky, pursuing at the direction of Little Golden Dragon and Purple Abyss Vine. As she reached mid-air, Li Shui's sword was glaring. She fiercely slashed it at the wraiths. The pale golden spiritual fire covered the upper layers of Li Shui's sword. In a blink of an eye, it consumed the evil black gas. However, at the same time, more black gas came out from the Rakshasa flag, wrapping around Heshi. Seeing that she was about to be constrained by the black gas, Heshi made an immediate decision and threw Little Golden Dragon and Purple Abyss Vine back to Little Egg and Little Dumb Cow, shouting, "Little Dumb, protect them." "Mom, Mom," Little Egg yelled anxiously behind her. Feng Yunjing, who was commanding not far away from the Rakshasa flag, laughed instead. "Shiyu, so what if you let those 2 animals out? Aren't you back into my hands again? Not to mention, do you think I won't kill them later?" As he said, he reached out with one hand that turned into a claw. A huge suction pulled Heshi flew toward Feng Yunjing involuntarily. But until this moment, a strange smile appeared on Heshi's face. Instead of stepping back, she used the remaining spiritual power to quickly move toward Feng Yunjing. At the same time, Li Shui's sword in her hand bloomed in a shockingly bright light. The powerful spirit pressure filled the air, causing the black flags in the sky to fluctuate. Feng Yunjing's face changed greatly, and he said in undertone, "You want to self-destruct your artifact? Shiyu, you don't want to live anymore." He didn't give him any answer. She just rushed to him faster and faster, and Li Shui's sword's spirit pressure in her hand became more and more threatening. Self-destructing artifact was a method of hurting oneself more than hurting the enemy. Li Shui's sword was a legendary artifact. Self-destructing in such a close distance, even Feng Yunjing would suffer major injuries. But the most important thing was that with Shiyu's practice now, if she really self-destructs Li Shui's sword, she would definitely die. For Feng Yunjing, he hadn't gotten Shiyu's body, and he hadn't made her his own. How could he let her die like this? Feng Yunjing made a decision immediately and snapped and beat Heshi's chest while retrieving Rakshasa flag in the sky to quickly defend himself. Heshi flew out like a disconnected kite, and blood gushed from her mouth. However, a slick smile appeared on her face. "Feng Yunjing, do you think I want to self-destruct my artifact? Hee, I just want to die rather than fall into your hands." Heshi slammed to the ground, but she did not feel the expected pain. Instead, she was held by little dumb cow's plump body. Feng Yunjing held the small-size black flag in his hands, staring coldly at Heshi. His eyes full of tyranny and cruelty. "Shiyu, you dare to be pretentious in front of me, but it's because I can't bear it kill you. But even if I don't kill you, I will erase your cultivation, pick off your tendons and hamstrings, and keep you in a cage. I can still get your body. It was you who forced me. Force me to be ruthless. Do you think you can escape from me?" As soon as Feng Yunjing spoke, his spiritual power suddenly became like a violent wind, surrounding the whole world with frosty air. He was like a hurricane, moving toward Heshi and others. That was the full-scale burst of the spirit pressure and power of the nascent soul stages. It could never be resisted by little tricks. Heshi's eyes already looked despair. At this time, she was seriously injured, and her spiritual power was emptied. She couldn't stop Feng Yunjing's casual blow at all. Suddenly, there was a sobbing voice from Little Dumb Cow. It was waving its short legs, then it pulled Heshi and Little Egg under its belly. Immediately afterward, a dazzling light astounded Heshi and Little Egg's eyes. Heshi had a quick wick and kept into Little Golden Dragon and Purple Abyss Vine into the void while her hands held Little Egg tightly. After that, the green light shrouded several people completely. As the green light dissipated, Feng Yunjing's earth-shattering blow hit it. Listening only to the loud sound, the ground where Heshi and others stayed originally cracked like a cobweb, and then the collapse into a deep pit with a height of tens of meters. However, when Feng Yunjing came to the deep pit, what he saw was an empty scene of smoke and dust. There was neither the dying Shiyu nor the bodies of several spiritual pets. They disappeared strangely without a trace. Feng Yunjing looked angry and frustrated. His hands clenched into fists, and his eyes were full of bloodlust and mania. He took a deep breath, then he revealed a sinister smile at the corner of his mouth. He whispered, "Shiyu, you have exhausted my patience. When I meet again next time, I will let you suffer a living hell. You can only kneel at my feet and beg me to pamper you." As the sun set, the darkness slowly covered the entire peak of the Breaking Spirit Mountain. In the dense and silent mountain forest, the last light of setting sun was disappearing slowly at this moment. In the dim light, a panther with dark hair and green eyes was walking through the forest, looking for prey that unfortunately fell into its prey range. Suddenly, the black panther suddenly looked up. Its green eyes revealed a greedy murderous vibe. In the void not far away, a burst of dazzling green light appeared. The green light split open the void, then a huge meatball fell from the sky with the whistling wind. The black panther smelled the blood from the meatball that made it become exciting and eager. The black panther lay on the ground, making a low whining sound. Its hind legs were slightly curved and the front claws gripped the ground. The breath of rank 5 magical beast emanated from it. It waited for the food to land to give it a fatal blow, then it could enjoy the delicious food. There was a loud noise when the meatball fell to the ground, stirring the leaves and sand on the ground. The Black Panther howled again. As it was about to pounce over, suddenly, the flat head on the fat meatball turned around and looked straight at it. There was only a pair of green bean-like eyes on its head that was faintly glinting in the night. Chapter 540 Escape. The panther suddenly stopped its posture to pounce, then it was followed by a terrifying gaze in its fierce eyes. It's not rank 5 magical beast. Is it rank 6, or higher? But how can there be a magical beast higher than rank 5 in this area? The Black Panther has no intellect and reasoning, it only had instinct. It instinctively felt that this fat meatball was terrifying. It terrified the Black Panther, rendering the Black Panther lose the courage to resist. Woo! The Black Panther made an undertone howl again, then it turned without hesitation and flew away. In the blink of an eye, the figure disappeared into the darkness of the tree shadow. Seeing the Black Panther leaving, the little meatball seemed to be unable to support it anymore. The air in its body leaked, turning into 2 palm-size ugly adorable little bulldog. However, its eyes still looked worried. It immediately made a crying sound anxiously at the 2 targets that were protected by it. She stood up from the ground, only to feel the pain everywhere on her body. She looked around and determined that the place was very unfamiliar. She indeed escaped from the hands of Feng Yunjing. Only then she was relieved. Seeing Little Dumb Cow looking at himself and Little Egg, he couldn't help but reached out and touched his little head. Little Dumb Cow, thank you. If it weren't for you, we would all die. Little Dumb Cow whimpered a few times, but its expression was extremely exhausted. Its skin became dry, and her green bean eyes were dimmed as if she would fall asleep at any time. Little Egg also popped out of the void and turned into a pink piglet, appearing in front of Little Dumb Cow. He touched its little head as he said childishly, Little Dumb Cow, are you all right? You look so uncomfortable. Are you out of spirit? Little Egg can give you. As Little Egg spoke, his small claws emitted a light green light, then he transferred it into the Little Dumb Cow. When Little Egg's spirit entered Little Dumb Cow's body, Little Dumb Cow's dried skin was replenished as the speed visible to the naked eye, and its initially weak breath became steady. However, it still seemed very sleepy. Its little green eyes was closing. Little Egg, who had given his spirit, became weak. He rubbed his eyes with his small paws and fell asleep in Heshi's arms. Heshi hugged Little Egg and stroked Little Dumb Cow gently. She slowly said, Little Dumb Cow, would you like to leave this Breaking Spirit Mountain with me? Logically, the magical beast in Breaking Spirit Mountain should have no intellect but only killing and appetite. However, this ugly adorable little magical beast, although it was exceptionally dumb, it obviously had not lost its mind. This time they went through life and death and Little Dumb Cow loved Little Egg so much, so Heshi couldn't leave it in Breaking Spirit Mountain anymore. Little Dumb Cow's eyes brightened. It nodded heavily, then passed out completely. Heshi examined the bodies of the 2 brats and found that they were both asleep. Besides, the spirit in their body was slowly repairing themselves. Heshi was relieved seeing this. She found a quiet place and arranged a simple array around her body before entering the void. What worried her the most was Little Golden Dragon and Purple Abyss Vine. Little Golden Dragon withstood Feng Yunjing's full blow, he should be badly injured. Little Purple was even worse. In order to save Heshi twice, even her main vine was polluted by the wraiths of Feng Yunjing's Rakshasa flag and became withered. However, what made Heshi relief was that although he was badly injured, after eating a dozen of rank 5 magical beast essence pills and soaking in the spirit spring water, his injuries started to get better. He started to fall into the hibernation of self-repair just like Little Dumb Cow. Not sure was this because of Little Golden Dragon's rank up. The body of Purple Abyss Vine was transplanted into the ancient rhyme spiritual field. Heshi used a lot of ninth secluded spirit spring to water it. She also endured the pain on Dantian and fed it a lot of spiritual fire. The little purple seedling that was about to However, it takes at least 10 days to grow a vine plant that could be used for battle. Even in the ancient rhyme spiritual field, it still had to take around 10 days. After ensuring that several brats were fine, Hashi began to deal with her injuries. She drank a lot of ninth secluded spirit spring and took the medicinal pill, so she could barely suppress the scorching injuries on her dantian. However, it was just treating the symptoms instead of the root cause. In fact, she suffered severe internal injuries this time. Combined with pretending to self-destruct Li Shui's sword forcefully, it had caused great damage to her meridians and dantian. If she weren't in Breaking Spirit Mountain now, she might be able to take a good rest and recover in a few months. But the problem was that in this place where magical beasts and gold core stage martial artists were everywhere, there was really no safe place to let her rest in peace. Hashi frowned and sat next to the spiritual fountain. She took out the black stone that Ouyang Haoshuan gave her and the talisman that Xinqingxue gave her. Just in the middle of the battle, she tried to activate the stone that Ouyang Haoshuan gave her, but nothing happened. The talisman that Fu Qin gave her did have a response, but it was unlikely that anyone would come to save her. Hashi didn't know whether it was Ouyang Haoshuan and Qingxia sect who were in danger, or Feng Yunjing did something on the rules, making them unable to cross through the boundary. In any case, Hashi knew that she could no longer stay in this rank 5 magical beast area. Her strength today was less than 1/3 of her heyday, and her several little ones had been seriously injured. If she encountered a rank 5 magical beast at this time, she could do nothing but run away. However, things would change if she could go to the rank 4 magical beast area. The magical beasts there were only at the meridian stage, and they were not under the control of Feng Yunjing. At least she could guarantee her safety. Thinking of this, Hashi took out the talisman that Xinqingxue gave her. When the spiritual power burned the talisman, a direction immediately indicated on the talisman, and there was a faint force trying to drag Hashi in that direction. Xinqingxue was now in the southeast direction. That means the rank 4 magical beast area was also in the southeast. Hashi breathed a sigh of relief. As she was about to keep everything, she suddenly touched a smooth and cool inscribed jade slip at her fingertips. It was an inconspicuous pale green inscribed jade slip. Hashi remembered that before she left, Wu Xian once told her to put this inscribed jade slip after entering Breaking Spirit Mountain. In a critical moment, it might save her life. Hashi responded very quickly at the time. She immediately forgot about this thing after a while. She just left it in the void and forgot about it. Now seeing it again, Hashi decided to wear it. Now she had lost a lot of strength, it was always good to have a safeguard. Hashi found a rope to wear on the inscribed jade slip and hung it close to her chest. As soon as the warm jade touched her skin, a slight throbbing came, making Hashi slightly blur. She didn't think much about it. She began to meditate, slowly cultivating the powerful spirit of the 9th secluded spirit spring in Dantian. Early the next morning, Hashi was awakened by the beast roar that was getting closer. A mighty breath of powerful magical beast came from a distant direction, shaking the leaves of the whole mountain forest that it made a rustling round. Hashi frowned and got out of the void. She decided to set off for the rank 4 magical beast area now. Along the way, Hashi followed the indication of talisman and proceeded very carefully. Her stealth skill had always been very strong. She never stayed in a place for more than 5 minutes, and she now basically didn't use spiritual power. Instead, she was moving with light steps. Therefore, she really avoided all the rank 5 magical beast all the way. Finally, she arrived at the border between rank 4 and rank 5 magical beast areas. As long as she walked through this boundary, she could some rest to take good care of her internal injuries. Hashi breathed a sigh of relief. As she was walking toward the boundary, her mind was suddenly alerted. Hashi's hand was almost touching the edge of the boundary, but her face changed drastically, and she retreated quickly. At the same time, she kicked a stone toward the boundary, making a sizzling sound. Hashi's face looked ugly. At this moment, she heard a woman laughing loudly behind her. Well, Shiyu, why don't you run into it? I'm still waiting to see how you are cooked by Thousand Thunder Trap. I even set it up using so much time. It's really disappointing. He turned around slowly, staring at the slowly appearing figure on the hill in the distance and biting her teeth fiercely. Feng Lianying. 5 to 6 gold core stage experts were standing on the hill. They were mostly young men in Luli sect costumes. The leader was a young woman in white fluttering clothes. She was as beautiful as a fairy, but her eyes that were looking at He far away was full of resentment and madness. If it wasn't Feng Lianying, who would it be? The person following her closely behind Feng Lianying was Nie Jinchen, whom He had seen in Sealed Dragon Domain's secret territory. Feng Lianying walked toward He and laughed leisurely. Shiyu, I had guessed that you would not be able to live in the rank 5 magical beast area, and you would definitely go to the rank 4 magical beast area to seek the help of the Shin family, so I have been for you here since the beginning of the hunting. However, you didn't appear after I waited for so many days. I thought you were killed by the rank 5 magical beast. I felt regret for a long time. After all, it is really too easy for you if you die so easily. Fortunately, my hard work pays off. You finally come to me yourself. Ha ha ha, Feng Lianying laughed wildly as she led people in the direction of He. At this time, she thought He had no way to escape this time. He could only listen to her command. However, when Feng Lianying stepped down the hill and came to He to see her, she suddenly widened her eyes and screamed, "You, why are you a woman?" Not far away, there was a young girl with long hair like silk satin. She only used a simple ribbon to tie her hair. A few strands of her hair were drooping by her face, which made a perfect foil of her white skin. The person in front of her was clearly wearing a simple men's wear, but it no longer covered her exquisite body. However, the most important thing was not only that. The person in front of her was Shiyu, but she didn't know what kind of changes she had made to change her initially handsome face features into a beautiful face, as if it had the charm to steal the others' souls. No one would ever recognize her as a man again. The girl's facial features were still immature, but she had a long nose, small lips, long eyelash, and slanting eyes. Every detail looked like it was carved by an artist. Every inch of her skin was so smooth as if it would break by the wind. It was obvious that when this young lady grew up, she would be a resplendent beauty after getting rid of her tenderness. Feng Lianying was astounded on the spot, staring deadly at the girl in front of her eyes. Her hands clenched into fists. She already hated and was jealous of Shiyu so much when she was pretending as a man. However, now that she found out that Shiyu wasn't a man but a woman who was 100 times beautiful than her. Yes. More beautiful than her Feng Lianying, and it was 100 times more beautiful. Feng Lianying couldn't stand the fact that she turned her head to see her fellow apprentices. All of them showed an obsessed expression on each of their faces. Each eye stared at He, they were unwilling to look away. Looking at those obsessed looks, they seemed to have forgotten about the intention of this trip. Even Nie Jinchen, who was always obsessed with her, also looked lost. The pair of eyes were full of surprise and lust. Why? Why does this bitch always want to compete with me? Why does this bitch like to seduce men so much? These fellow apprentices of her always praised her like a fairy, saying that the other women were all mediocre women, and only her Feng Lianying was the goddess that could charm the man all over the world. Those sweet words seemed to be still in her ears, but at the moment, they all looked at Shiyu with fiery eyes. They completely forgot Feng Lianying's existence. Did brother you know her female identity long ago? That is why he is so obsessed with her and cherishes her, and even wants to marry her? No. I don't allow this to happen, I will never allow it. Feng Lianying suddenly screamed sternly, why are you all just standing there? Quickly catch this shameless bitch. The people who were obsessed with He finally woke up, and their faces turned red. But Feng Lianying was the young master of Luli sect, the only niece of the Feng family. If they disobeyed Feng Lianying's order, they could no longer stay in Luli sect. So after being shocked, these people quickly went behind He and surrounded her. He took a deep breath. She felt the surge of spiritual power in her body. Just before Feng Lianying and others came over, she had already taken a medical pill. This medicinal pills could quickly stimulate her potential, allowing her to exhibit 60% of her original strength in a short period of time. Of course, there would be side effects later, but she couldn't care much at this time. However, it would take a while for these medical pills to work. Therefore, when Feng Lianying and the others approached her, He took no action. As for the makeup on her body, after Feng Yunjing removed her face mask and the vest, she only focused on treating herself and the few little ones. She didn't have time to redress. She only had one human skin mask of Nalan He, so she wanted to bother about it after reaching the rank 4 magical beast area. She didn't expect to be blocked here by Feng Lianying. He took a deep breath and looked at Feng Lianying, who showed a crooked face, then she said slowly, "Feng Lianying, I have no grievance with you, why do you keep pestering me?" "No grievance?" Feng Lianying suddenly uttered a harsher scream, her face was twisting. Please go to https://www. Novel updates. cc/The King of Hell is Genius Pampered Wife/ to read the latest chapters for free. You bitch stole my inheritance in the purple golden palace, making me embarrassed in the 100 herb mist. You also made me lost my face in front of all the other sects during the public trial conference. Now you are telling me that you have no grievance with me. He sneered and said, "If you didn't provoke me and frame me first, why should I oppose you to let you lose your face? Is it that you want to kill me now? You want to make me unable to resist under your feet and let you bully? You're just a low-life martial artist, and I'm the high-position descendant of the Feng family. What's wrong with you being stepped on my feet?" Feng Lianying yelled, "Trash, like you are born to kneel and worship at our feet. It is your pleas to be trampled by me. Why do you resist me?" He looked at Feng Lianying as if she was looking at an idiot. Aren't all people of the Feng family having a mental problem? This is really a big joke. Feng Yunjing is like this, Feng Lianying is also like this. In the eyes of the Feng family, the other martial artists were all animals, they should be humiliated by the Feng family as they pleased. If the animal was unwilling that it wanted to resist, then it was the animal's fault for being ungrateful. Who do they think they are? God? Feng Lianying took a deep breath, then she stared fiercely at He. She gritted her teeth as she said sharply, "Not to mention, you shameless bitch also tried to seduce Brother Yu. Brother Yu and I are in love with each other. We Feng family and the King of Hell Mansion will have a marriage sooner or later. By then, I will be the mistress of the King of Hell Mansion. I will become the woman of the highest position in the world one day. But then you appeared. You made Brother Yu despise me, alienate me, and even draw a sword against me. If it wasn't for your slut, Brother Yu and I would be fine. Maybe we have all already married by now. You dare say that you have no grievance with me?" He's eyes narrowed, looking at Nie Jinchen, whose face couldn't be seen clearly because he was looking down. She said meaningfully, "But isn't there already Nie Jinchen by your side? Starting from Sealed Dragon Domain's secret territory, he risks his life to protect you. He is obedient to your command. Can't you see how much he sacrificed for you?" Feng Lianying looked back at Nie Jinchen behind him, seeing that he still looked at her with deep affection. She couldn't help but smile. She looked back at He and said proudly, "So what if that's the case? I am a descendant of the Feng family, the young master of the Luli sect. I am praised as the Ice Lotus Fairy by all martial artists. My suitors are everywhere in this Miluo continent. Shouldn't Nie Jinchen like me and be obsessed with me? You still hope that he would like you, this bitch?" Speaking of the thread of discussion, Feng Lianying became gritted again. "But, the only person who matches me is only Brother Yu. Other men are even worthy of comparing with Brother Yu. Everyone knows that Brother Yu is mine, but you slut wanted to seduce him instead. Don't you think that you really deserve death? Before Feng Lianying finished her words, He, who had been silent, suddenly moved. She jumped into the air, then Li Shui's sword appeared in her hand, turning into the thousand of sword lights. Lu Li sect's disciples, who surrounded He, was caught off guard. They actually couldn't stop He at once. Seeing the thousands of sword lights flying toward, Thousand Thunder Trap. A continuous sizzling sound could be heard. The trap was shattered by the lights. He also flew toward the rank 4 magical beast area. Feng Lianying came into her sense immediately. Looking at He trying to escape, she couldn't help shouting furiously, "Are you all dead? 5 gold core stages can't even stop a foundation establishment stage. If she runs away, you all are better off dead." Those 5 Lu Li sect disciples' faces were extremely ugly, but they still pursued He due to the fear of Feng Lianying. Seeing that He was about to pass the boundary between the rank 4 and 5 magical beast areas, a huge spiritual pressure suddenly came from behind her. He's face changed. Her body suddenly turned in midair, and she avoided the fatal blow. But because of this dodge, 2 gold core stage martial artists appeared behind her soon, blocking her escape completely. One of the older men had the advanced level of gold core stage. He held a small blue bell in his hand, making clanging sound. He was the one who made the fatal blow. He looked at He with pity. He said in an undertone, "Sorry, we don't want to make a move with a woman for you. It's your fault who offended someone you shouldn't." As he spoke, the man's small bell was launched again. The martial artists around him also launched their flying sword in cooperation. He's current strength was only 60% of the original. Of course, she couldn't stop the attacks of 2 gold core stage experts. She could only retreat step by step. Finally, she was forced into the face of Feng Lianying again. She was besieged once again. Feng Lianying looked at He, who looked flustered being surrounded by He, and she laughed, "Shiyu, when you showed off to me on that day, when you embarrassed me at the public trial conference, did you think you would have such fate today? But you can rest assured that I will not kill you. How can killing you vent my hatred? Not only I will not kill you, but I will also hand you to someone to let you enjoy the ultimate joy." After speaking, Feng Lianying took out a talisman and quickly burned the talisman. After the talisman was burned, a flash of light quickly flashed on the ground in front of Feng Lianying. After the light, people in black robes appeared in the light. The leader was a man of about 40 years old. He looked extremely sinister and weird. His hands and feet are extremely slender, his face was like a shoehorn, his eyes were long and narrow, but his eyes were drooping instead of slanting. Even his mouth corner was drooping also. He gave others the sinister feeling. He was also surrounded by 7 men, wearing the same black clothes and black robes, and even the same hairstyle decoration. Each of them was extremely ugly. Some had crooked eyes and mouth, some had a face full of pimple, some only had one eyeball. All in all, everyone looked disgusting. But their bodies were exuding a bone-chilling breath, making people couldn't help but shiver. The weirdest thing was that these people obviously seemed badass, but they didn't seem to have any cultivation. When Feng Lianying saw the few people, disgusted expression revealed on her face. Then, she walked up and laughed, "Mr. Liao, I have let you wait for so long at the Breaking Spirit Mountain. I'm really sorry." The middle-aged man, known as Mr. Liao, lifted his eyelids, then he made an evil laugh. "Miss Feng specifically asked me to come to Breaking Spirit Mountain before big hunting match, saying that you have a gift for me. But I have been waiting in the Breaking Spirit Mountain for 8 days. There were some young ladies and young men passing by. I really wanted to catch them to have fun. Now, I'm filled up with anger. If Miss Feng's present can't satisfy me, then..." Feng Lianying was startled by his gloomy expression, and she immediately laughed. "Since I specifically asked Mr. Liao to come, the gift that I offer will naturally satisfy Mr. Liao. Why don't Mr. Liao see it for yourself?" As Feng Lianying spoke, she sneered as she pointed her finger at He not far away. Mr. Liao's eyes with horror and death turned slowly as he couldn't control them. It took a short while before he set his gaze on Heshi. The next moment, Mr. Liao's whole body trembled. His eyes widened incredibly. Perfect, perfect masterpiece. How could there be such a perfect masterpiece in this world? Mr. Liao's dead eyes suddenly became extremely hot. It was like a viper staring at his prey. He glanced at Heshi's body from top to bottom, look at the tender skin, the lips that are softer and pinky that flower, and the slim body figure. Ah! Mr. Liao kept inhaling, but his whole body twitched uncontrollably, then he laughed sinisterly after a while. It was just that the laughter was less sinister than the previous one, but there was cruel and craziness of a pervert. As long as I think about stripping away such an exquisite body, put her in a 1,000-needle cage, letting poisonous snake and ants crawl on her body, listening to her screaming and crying, watching her white skin bleeding. That was really wonderful. I am really fascinated by it. Ah, no, such a perfect masterpiece can't be damaged so quickly. I want to put a collar on her, drag her beautiful neck, and let her lie on the ground to please me. When I get bored, I will tear off her flawless skin and hang on my bed, ha ha ha. Just by thinking this, I couldn't stop trembling with excitement. Mr. Liao said more and more excited, but the disciples of Luli's sect couldn't help but show an unbearable expression. Although they were mostly murderous as martial artists, they were so terrifying by the means of torture. As soon as they thought that the little girl like a flower would be so tortured by this old pervert, their hearts burst into guilt. The more Feng Lianying listened to Mr. Liao, the happier she was. When she thought of Heshi's tragic end, she couldn't help but tremble with excitement like Mr. Liao. Mr. Liao, are you still satisfied with this gift? Satisfied. Too satisfied. Mr. Liao chuckled, as long as Miss Feng hands this person to me, I will never reject any request of Miss. Feng Lianying's face had a sinister smile on her face. She looked at Heshi's beautiful face from afar and slowly said, I said earlier that this person is a gift to Sir, of course, I will hand her to you. However, before I hand it over to Sir, I hope that Mr. Liao can show me a wonderful show with your disciple. She raised her finger as she spoke. 2 talismans appeared in her hands. Feng Lianying's gaze looking at Heshi as if they were poisonous and vicious, but full of pride and excitement. I have prepared these 2 recording talismans. As soon as Sir made a move, I will record this so that I can send it to others to let them enjoy. As soon as Mr. Liao's eyes turned, he immediately understood the meaning of Feng Lianying. No wonder Feng Lianying asked him to bring some of his ugly disciples, and she also found some ways to send only the Meridian stage martial artists to the rank 5 magical beast area. Mr. Liao immediately laughed, how difficult is this? Since Miss Feng wants to see it, we will definitely make Miss enjoy it. He 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 he. My disciples haven't encountered a delicious tender girl in a long time. They are blessed to have Miss Feng's kindness. The 7 incomparably ugly men in black robes couldn't help laughing, and they were looking at the unearthly lady with lust and greed. Although following Mr. Liao, they could occasionally play beautiful women, they had never encountered such a perfect lady. Today, they could enjoy such a beautiful lady's body. It made their blood boiled. Feng Lianying smiled and turned to look at Heshi, thinking that she could see fear and surprise in her face. However, to her surprise, Heshi's expression was calm from beginning to end. Heshi was even looking at Feng Lianying with her eyes full of disdain and contempt like she was watching a bunch of stinking waste. Feng Lianying's anger surged into her head. This bitch. How can she look at me like that? She was going to tear her mask and make her cry and beg for mercy. Thinking of this, Feng Lianying took a deep breath. She suddenly said faintly to Mr. Liao, Mr. Liao, in order to let you better entertain her, I want to give you another present. After speaking, Feng Lianying's palm spread out, and a dark red bug appeared in her palm. Feng Lianying exhaled softly at the little bug, and a weird smile filled the corner of his mouth. When Heshi took out the little bug, Heshi had a bad feeling in her mind. Before she knew what was wrong, she felt a sudden rush of heat in her abdomen. This heat flow was completely different from the burning pain of the injured meridians. It was like there were countless small bugs surging in the lower abdomen. Everywhere the bugs went, there were numbness, itchiness, and burning hot. She couldn't refrain herself from groaning and trembling. Heshi's eyes finally showed a hint of fear. Feng Lianying, you actually poisoned me? I was poisoned. When? Why did I not notice it at all? No, it wasn't done just now, but it was just when entering the teleporting array of Breaking Spirit Mountain. Heshi remembered the inscribed jade slip that hurt her. At that time, the poison had already permeated into her body. No, maybe it isn't poison. Heshi's gaze fell on the little bug in Feng Lianying's palm. This is voodoo. When Feng Lianying saw Heshi's always calm and self-sustained face finally revealed a panicked expression, she suddenly laughed. This is not a drug, but a spirit voodoo, and it is the most ferocious love-devouring voodoo in the spirit voodoo. My master raised this love-devouring voodoo with a lot of hardship. He has to feed the mother voodoo with the blood of 999 girls with only one attribute for 3 years. After the mother voodoo gives to offspring voodoo, then let the offspring voodoo devours the 999 girls. After that, the offspring voodoo will fight each other until the number of voodoo reduce from 1,000 to 10. Shiyu, I have wasted one precious offspring voodoo on you. You should be grateful. Love-devouring voodoo. Mr. Liao couldn't help but compliment. I did not expect that the master of the Thousand Poisons Valley can cultivate love-devouring voodoo. If the level of love-devouring voodoo is high enough, the mother voodoo can control those who are cursed by the offspring voodoo. It can make the cursed party fall in love with him or her desperately. It can even make the target kill himself. 1. https://www.thoughtco.com/in and Young 629214. Mr. Liao really knows the goods. Feng Lianying smiled lovely. Although the level of this offspring voodoo of love-devouring voodoo is only level 3, it can absolutely make people burn in lust. Mr. Liao, you can see this woman lying on the ground and pleasing you to pamper her in a while. Never mind your disciples are just ugly, even if it is magical beast, she will please without hesitation. Love-devouring voodoo's lust desire is can't be able to resist with human will. Ha ha ha, Mr. Liao glanced at Heshi. He that her cheeks were peachy red, and she seemed to be have with an enchanting charm. His mouth was dry by just looking at her. He couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. Miss Feng thought so thoughtfully, you can rest assured that I will not disappoint your expectations. As he spoke, several people laughed and approached Heshi. Heshi felt that the fire in her body was burning, making her limbs weak. She couldn't even hold the sword in her hand. However, there was a burst of madness in her heart. There was an anger to perish together with the enemies. Feng Lianying saw that Heshi still wanted to use the flying sword in her hands, and she laughed. Shiyu, don't you know that spirit voodoo's favorite is spiritual power? The more you use spiritual power, the more active spirit voodoo is. Ha ha ha, I advise you to be obedient. There are so many people serving you, you don't have to worry about not being able to satisfy the poison of love-devouring voodoo. I'm good enough for you, right? Before Feng Lianying's words were finished, Heshi lifted her head abruptly and said coldly, Feng Lianying, die. As soon as she spoke, she rose into the sky. The Li Shui sword slashed at the sky fiercely. Immediately afterward, swords rain fell from the sky at Feng Lianying and the others. Feng Lianying was so certain that Heshi would lose. She didn't expect Heshi to have the chance to fight back after she was infected by the love-devouring voodoo. She was caught off guard. The sword's rain had already reached the top of her head before she managed to channel her spiritual power. The shadow of death enveloped Feng Lianying. She screamed and pulled Nie Jinchen around her, trying to throw him into the air to block the sword's rain. However, Nie Jinchen moved faster than her. He quickly caught another disciple of Luli's sect and threw him at the sky. Ah! A miserable scream went through the sky. That disciple also had no time to activate the spiritual power shield. He was instantly penetrated by the sword rains in the sky and died. Bang! The body dropped from high altitude and rolled on the ground. The disciple's eyes turned white, blood flowed out from the 7 orifices. The pair eyes were staring deadly at Feng Lianying's direction. Feng Lianying fell to the ground, shuddering all over her body. She only regained conscious a moment later. She screamed suddenly, "Shiyu, are you looking for death?" She took out the Mother Voodoo abruptly, bit her tongue, and spat a mouthful of blood toward the Mother Voodoo. Heshi's face turned white for a moment, then her face became more flushed. She couldn't help groaning. That sound was so sweet, as if it was honey sweet with a tender charm. Heshi's heart sank a little. Feng Lianying shouted at Mr. Liao and others, "What are you guys waiting for? Do you want to enjoy this woman's body?" Mr. Liao recollected his mind. He was smiling evilly. His gaze at Heshi looked a little dignified. Obviously, she was just a girl at the foundation establishment stage. Logically, she couldn't fight back at all after being infected by the love-devouring voodoo. However, she was still able to make such a powerful move, and even killed a Luli sect's gold core stage disciple. This girl's qualifications and talent seemed to be much higher than Feng Lianying. It was no wonder that Feng Lianying would be so jealous of her. However, the stronger she was, the more stubborn she was. Would he be more excited and delight to torture her? Feng Lianying saw Mr. Liao and others stayed still for a long time, thinking that they were also scared by Heshi's move just now, and she couldn't help but snort, "Mr. Liao, don't you know that spiritual voodoo loves spirit the most? This bitch is still fine if she didn't make a move, but she used the flying sword forcefully. That will only make the love-devouring voodoo more active. Can't you see that she can't even stand still now? Are Mr. Liao afraid of such a charming and defenseless girl?" Mr. Liao laughed, "Why would I be afraid? Miss Feng, you don't have to be anxious. We will show you a good show that makes you satisfied now." Then, he waved at several disciples and walked in the direction of Heshi. Heshi's situation at this time was indeed not good. Her cheeks were already redder than peach, and her eyes were covered with mist. The things in her eyes seemed to have double shadows. Her vision was shaking so badly. The fire in her body surged again and again, making her unable to resist that she wanted to tear up all the clothes on her body. Every inch of her skin became extremely fragile and sensitive. Even if it was just a gentle wind, it made her want to moan and shiver. However, her pride and her self-esteem did not allow her to show such an embarrassing ugly look in front of the vicious woman, Feng Lianying. Heshi saw Mr. Liao and several of his disciples coming toward her, surrounding her in the center. There were non-stop laughter and heavy gasps from the few black men. A dozen of eyes were looking at her. They were full of disgusting obscene and lust. Heshi raised the Li Shui sword in her hand, trying to kill all those around him. Mr. Liao suddenly pulled out a black barbed whip and whipped heavily on Heshi. After a tearing sound, Heshi reached out and blocked, but the Li Shui sword fell to the ground. The sleeve on her arm was ripped by the whip as well, exposing the crystal-clear jade arm. The red whip drew on the smooth skin. It was just like the red plums falling in the snow, it was so gorgeous. Making people eager of trampling her and torturing her ruthlessly to leave more marks. Mr. Liao trembled with excitement. The hand that was holding the black whip hand cramped until the blue veins became obvious. He stared straight at Heshi, kept swallowing his saliva, and sneered, "Baby, did the whipping just now make you happy? Do you want more? He, don't look at me with such terrifying eyes." Love-devouring voodoo will make the host eager to be abused. You will soon kneel under my feet, lick my toes, and beg me to continue whipping you. With that said, Mr. Liao quickly made a second whip which was directed at the clothes on Heshi's chest. This whip had barbs. If she was whipped, her clothes would be torn easily, exposing her white jade skin. The eyes of Mr. Liao and his disciples were all beaming. They greedily looked at the weak girl in front of them who was going to be trampled by them. However, when the whip waved in front of Heshi, suddenly a slender white hand appeared out of thin air and clutched the whip. She dragged her hand so hard that Mr. Liao was caught off guard. She actually dragged away his whip, even Mr. Liao stumbled by the drag. Heshi's movements didn't stop for a moment. She first whipped away Mr. Liao who was closest to her, then she turned around and whipped at Mr. Liao's two disciples. The two disciples' cultivation was actually not high. They were summoned by Feng Lianying just because they looked ugly. Now that they were whipped by Heshi with internal force, they screamed abruptly and fell to the ground. Heshi didn't dare to stay for a while. Regardless of the surge in the body, she channeled her remaining spiritual power and quickly flew toward the rank 4 magical beast area. This was her only chance, and the only chance. Feng Lianying's hysterical scream came from behind her ears, "Liao Qingfu, you piece of shit. I let you torture and play with her. If you let her run away, I want you all to die." The rank 4 magical beast area was in front of her. Heshi was suffering the torments of hell inside her. Her vision was blurred, but there was still hope in her eyes. Just a little bit, it is just a little bit. However, there was a loud bang in the ear, then a severe pain came from behind her head. Heshi didn't even have 10% of her power and agility now. Before she could react to it, she was smashed to the ground. She spat a mouthful of blood. Her internal organs were so painful as if they were being stirred. However, after the pain, there was the heat wave of lust that was even harder to resist. She heard Mr. Liao's proud laugh in her ears, "Baby, do you think you can escape my palm? Ha ha ha, no one has ever escaped after falling into my hand. However, for such a masterpiece like you, I promise to let you enjoy before killing you." Heshi closed her eyes, her heart full of despair and sadness. But what Heshi didn't find was that the blood she spat splashed onto the inscribed jade slip on her chest. There was a light silver like it was breathing on the inscribed jade slip. Mr. Liao and his disciple walked toward Heshi. He held something like an iron rod in his hand, tapped his palm gently, and sneered, "Why are you not running now? You can try again. Let's see if you can escape from me." Heshi looked at him coldly. Her body was obviously very fragile after being influenced by the lust fire, but those eyes were like cold swords, making those who saw them trembled felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. Mr. Liao's brows frowned, and a bit of uneasiness surged in his heart. Suddenly, he spoke to his disciple faintly, "This girl has a little temperament. If she keeps messing around, wouldn't we not be able to enjoy it? You all go tie up her hands and legs. If she dares to resist, just cut off all her tendons and hamstrings. Miss Feng just wants to see us play with her white jade-like body. I think Miss Feng won't bother whether she becomes cripple." Feng Lianying laughed immediately when she heard it, "Mr. Liao, the worse you torture her, the happier I will be." At this moment she was channeling the recording talisman. Looking at Heshi who was about to fall into a miserable state, she just excitedly wanted to laugh loudly. Mr. Liao's disciple listened to the command and pushed toward Heshi. Heshi's vision was blurred at this time. The sound in her ears became a noisy and distant echo. The only feeling in her whole body was the burning desire. A man with a pimple face tried to approach her and grab her hand. Heshi snorted, "Go away," the invisible needle in her hand shot out. However, her voice had already become hoarse. There was no deterrence at all. It seemed to be the most seductive flirt instead. The man with a pimple face avoided the invisible needle. He was first stunned, then he made a hoarse and excited laughter. Everyone catches her, the voodoo in this girl's body is activated. The concealed weapon she launched was powerless. The men in black heard the words and pounced at Heshi with excitement. Heshi stumbled and dodged the man wobbly, but there was a tearing pain on her left shoulder suddenly. Immediately after tearing, half of her clothes were torn open, exposing the white shoulder and the vicious whip mark. Her initially weak body was also severely knocked to the ground. It turned out that Mr. Liao had already retrieved the whip that He took away. At this moment, he was waving the whip with a disgusting grin on his face. When several disciples of Mr. Liao saw He fell, they rushed over to hold her hands and feet. The beautiful and unparalleled looks of the girls were observed at close range. These people took a deep breath, but they only felt a shortness of breath. Their eyes looked straight. They couldn't help drooling. Mr. Liao had ripped off his clothes and shouted, "Baby, don't worry, wait for Grandpa to tear off all your clothes and leave beautiful whip marks on you, then I can pamper you properly." As he spoke, his black whip was raised high. The weird laughter together with the tremble of excitement made the others feel chill by just listening to it. However, the moment the black whip was about to fall again, suddenly, a dazzling light lit from He's neck. The dark red light immediately shrouded the clouds over Breaking Spirit Mountain. There was a strong wind abruptly, dust flew in the sky, the cloud was rolling. Immediately after that, the dark red light strangely ripped a crack in the sky, exposing a black hole in the bowl size. In the wind, everyone was blown upside down. Even if they used spiritual shield, it still seemed they were going to be cut into pieces by the wind and sand. Someone shouted in panic, "What is happening?" As soon as the words were out, there was a tall figure appearing in the crack. The figure was slowly falling from the sky. The dark red halo shrouded his whole body, making it difficult to see his appearance, but the terrifying vibe from his body made everyone stiff and trembled. Finally the figure landed on the ground, the winds receded, and the dark red light gradually disappeared without a trace. Mr. Liao held himself up with the iron rod in his hand. He could finally see what was happening only at this moment. However, when he saw the person's face, he shuddered instantly and made a terrifying exclamation, "The King of Hell! How could the King of Hell appear here?" The man in front of him had long black hair and a picturesque eyebrow. The golden sunset setting on his face reflected the handsome face that made countless young girls crazy. Holding the black long sword in his hand, he stood there quietly. His clothes were fluttering gently. There was no sorrow or joy in his eyes, but it seemed that he could destroy everything in front of him by just moving his eyes slightly. The King of Hell. Nangong Yu, why is he here? Without entering the inscribed teleportation jade slip of Breaking Spirit Mountain, how can he appear here? The King of Hell, what does he want to do? The fear and horror like the end of the world spread in everyone's heart. All of them remembered what Ice Lotus Fairy had just said. Shiyu seduced Nangong Yu, the King of Hell. Nangong Yu liked and even obsessed with Shiyu. What about Shiyu? Now that Shiyu was tortured by them. As soon as Nangong Yu landed on the ground, he didn't even look at these people. He first looked at He. However, just a glance made his eyes suddenly red. He could hardly conceal the murderous intentions from his body. Nangong Yu landed next to He and hugged her. The girl's face was so pale, but her cheeks were abnormally crimson. The corners of his mouth had some dried bloodstain, and the scar on her lips that was bitten deeply. Her breath was so weak, and the clothes on her shoulders and arms were torn, revealing her white skin and the ugly whip mark. Moreover, her spiritual power and breathing became obscured, and her body unnaturally twisted and had a fever. She closed her eyes with a face full of pain and despair. Nangong Yu carefully held her in his arms. Her hot body temperature was like a soldering iron on his palm. Even when he was burned by the spiritual fire, it was not so painful. The pain permeated into his heart and into his bone. He carefully put her in his arms to take care of her. He couldn't bear to hurt this little girl. He was reluctant to leave her, but he was willing to stay away just to protect his girl. However, she was injured to such extent now. Besides, when he thought that if he was one step later, what would these bastards do to Shiyu? Nangong Yu's heart was filled with killing intentions that were enough to destroy the world. He put the unconscious He in his embrace with one hand, then he slowly stood up. The cold bloodthirsty eyes glanced over Mr. Liao and several of his disciples. Mr. Liao held the iron rod tightly in his hands. He was shouting in a tremble as he backed up, "Please, forgive me, Your Royal Highness King of Hell, it's not me. I didn't want to do it." "Yes. It's Feng Lianying. She asked me to deal with Miss Shiyu. It's none of my business, it's really none of my business." Before Mr. Liao's words were finished, Nangong Yu's sword sliced through gently. It was just a simple slash, and Mr. Liao was still shaking as he was begging for mercy. Without realizing what had happened, he saw his right hand that was holding the iron rod flew away. "Ah!" Mr. Liao screamed painfully afterward. His body slammed to the ground, and he crawled out to escape. A second strike sliced through gently. Mr. Liao only felt a pain in his left leg, then he lost his left leg's sense again. His face was full of snots and tears, and his mouth just kept crying, "It wasn't me, it really wasn't me, it was Feng Lianying who made me do it. King of Hell, please forgive me, please be mercy." The third strike swept through, but this time it was Mr. Liao's left hand and right foot flew out together. Mr. Liao could no longer cry at this time. The blood on his 4 limbs kept spitting out. Nangong Yu seemed to feel that it was not enough. The corner of his mouth even evoked an evil sneer, "Relax, I will keep your life. When Shiyu wakes up, she will want to torture you personally. If you die so simply, maybe Shiyu will be angry with me instead." But Nangong Yu's eyes looked at Heshi's torn clothes, and he whispered softly, "You dare to touch Sierre, you actually dare to touch Sierre. How would it be enough to just cut off your 4 limbs? Nangong Yu's voice has become violent and crazy in the later section of the sentence. As soon as he spoke, there was a watermelon-sized stone not far away suddenly flying into the air, then it dropped straight down at Mr. Liao's crotch. All of a sudden, flesh and blood splashed, his pelvic bone shattered, and a crunching sound could be heard. Mr. Liao was already out of breath. This blow made him scream out of despair again, then he eventually passed out. Nangong Yu picked up Mr. Liao before his eyes slowly fell on the men in black who had been desperately running away. These men were nearly crawling and rolling at this time. They were running toward the place where Feng Lianying and Lu Li Sec's disciples were at. As they rolled, they cried and shouted, "Ice Lotus Fairy, Miss Feng, help! Save us!" Someone also begged for mercy from Nangong Yu, "Master King of Hell, we are only executing the Master's order. We haven't touched Miss Shiyu, we really haven't." Woo-woo, Nangong Yu hugged Heshi in one hand while holding a sword in another hand, walking slowly toward the crowd. His posture seemed to be walking in the courtyard. There wasn't any fluctuation in spiritual power, but wherever his cold gaze looked at, it made everyone trembled with fear. Feng Lianying had been watching him obsessively since the appearance of Nangong Yu. At this time, watching him come holding Heshi, she could not help crying, "Brother Yu, are you going to kill me? I do all this because I love you. I have been with you for so many years. I always thought that I would be your wife. If it weren't for Shiyu, you would be my husband, you would love me. Brother Yu, she is just a low-life woman. It doesn't do you any good to marry her. Only me are worthy of you." Nangong Yu raised his head, looked at her, and sneered, "Are you done?" Feng Lianying shuddered at his cold, red bloodthirsty eyes, but her voice became more hysterically, "Brother Yu, are you really going to kill me for this bitch? I am the young master of Lu Li sect, miss of the Feng family. My father is even your life-saving person. You want to kill me just for such a shameless slut? Brother Yu, are you not afraid that the Feng family will trouble you? What's more, this bitch woman has just been insulted just now. She was born to be a bitch, she was very enthusiastic to Mr. Liao and those men. Her body has already been occupied. Ha ha ha. For such a shameless woman, Brother Yu, why are you?" Before Feng Lianying's words were finished, Nangong Yu waved his sword gently. A light and ingenious sword strike, but it could shake the earth and bring a strong wind. The horrible dark coercion shrouded everyone. Under the sword strike, Feng Lianying and her fellow disciples vomited blood. Afterward, there was another sword slashed through their body and face relentlessly. Feng Lianying's clothes were cut by the slash, and her body kept having hideous wounds. The appearance of those wounds was very similar to the lash on Heshi's body. Feng Lianying screamed in horror. She desperately covered her face. She kept shouting, "Nan Gongyu, you can't do this to me. I do this all for you, it's all for you." As soon as Nan Gongyu's sword net was closed, the world restored to its original state in an instant. The place where the sword net disappeared, there were torn clothes and scarred on it. Feng Lianying thought that Nan Gongyu was touched by her, and there was delighted tears on her face. As she was trying to say something, she heard Nan Gongyu spoke slowly, "Since it's all for me, then you die for me." He was a cruel, bloodthirsty, ruthless king of hell. He was never a romantic man. All his feelings and persistence had been given to the only woman whom he loved. Those who hurt her should be dead for 10,000 times. The delight on Feng Lianying's face suddenly turned into horror. She stumbled and fell to the ground. Lu Li's sect's disciple and the faces of the men in black showed a look of fear and despair. Seeing Nan Gongyu's sword lifted again, the savage murderous intention was like the death's scythe hung above their heads. It would fall at any time. Suddenly, the girl in Nan Gongyu's arms groaned in pain. The hoarse voice with a soft, fragile and hopeful tone sounded in his ears faintly, "Nan Gongyu. Nan Gongyu. I'm so uncomfortable." The monstrous murderous intentions suddenly disappeared. Nan Gongyu threw away the flying sword almost clumsily, holding the girl in his arms tightly with both hands. Feng Lianying and others suddenly escaped from death. All of them were astounded. Their faces were filled with fear after escaping death. Suddenly, someone shouted, "Hurry up, run." In the blink of an eye, everyone took out their flying swords and magic weapons, and they were about to flee like a loser. Nan Gongyu raised his head. A cold and violent smile revealed from the corner of his mouth. He said softly, "You hurt Sierre, and you thought you could run away safely?" As soon as the words were out, the martial artist who had flown into the sky fell down abruptly. They didn't even know what happened, then they fell on the ground and lost their consciousness. Want to escape? Stop dreaming. I can deal with them bit by bit slowly later. After Nan Gongyu made everyone fainted to make sure that they couldn't run away in a short time, then he focused his attention on Heshi completely. At this point, Heshi had completely lost her mind. All his consciousness was concentrated in the burning lust in her body. She was completely desperate initially, and she intended to desperately end her life with Mr. Liao. However, at the very moment, she suddenly felt a huge spiritual pressure appearing, then she was embraced into a familiar and warm embrace. The person holding her was so careful, it was full of distress and pity. Even the way he stroked her face was so familiar for her. Heshi opened her eyes in a daze and saw Nan Gongyu's unparalleled handsome face. He thought she was dreaming, but he couldn't help murmuring her name softly. Nan Gongyu carefully hugged her and sat down on his knees, trying to check the injuries at her shoulders and arms. However, when Nan Gongyu's warm fingertips just touched the silky skin, Heshi could not help but utter a soft moan. The desire in the body burned 100 times stronger, erasing her only last bit of reasoning and consciousness completely. Heshi frowned. She tore her clothes, and her body was involuntarily approaching Nan Gongyu. Nan Gongyu took a breath, and he was stiff there. The girl in her arms had messy hair and clothes, and her collar was opened, revealing her delicate skin that was whiter than lamb's white jade. The sweet peach color stained the girl's lip color, and it brought up with an enchanting fragrance and charm. The pink lips were bitten by the white teeth, and the little lilac tongue was exposed between the moans. The girl's body seemed to exude a faint fragrance which was like the strongest filter, making Nan Gongyu losing his mind bit by bit. The fiery eyes moved along the pink lips, passing the arc-shaped perfect jaw, and landed on the slender neck and delicate clavicle. The lines of the clavicle were so sexy and beautiful. The lines faintly extended down to the open collar. The slight undulation of the round object in the placket dazzled Nan Gongyu's eyes. He couldn't help but have a dry mouth, and he was breathing rapidly. However, Heshi didn't know that Nan Gongyu's struggle was so tormenting. She just felt uncomfortable. Fires were igniting in her body, but when her little hand touched Nan Gongyu's face, she felt as if there was a coolness flowing into her body and mind from her fingertips which made her couldn't help herself from moaning comfortably. But it was not enough at all. Heshi's hand slowly moved down. She eagerly peeled off Nan Gongyu's collar, wanting to get more coolness to relieve the burn that almost tortured her to death. Nan Gongyu's eyes were red, and he stared directly at the blurred Heshi. Finally, he couldn't help but clasped Heshi's small hand, and lowered his head, and kissed her lips. This kiss was no longer as gentle and ambiguous as before, but it attacked like a storm of aggression. Heshi just faintly felt that her body was almost going to be buried in that hot embrace. The stormy deep kiss made her unable to breathe as if she was about to be swallowed in. Nan Gongyu's hand pressed tightly to Heshi's soft back, pressing her against himself and making her unable to escape. Then, the hot palm kneaded the slim waist, and it extended into her clothes again. Sheer. Sheer, the rough voice could no longer keep his mind. He wanted her, he frantically wanted to possess her and aggressively invade her, making her his woman completely. Nan Gongyu extended his hand with red eyes as he was going to tear off the obstructing clothes on the girl. Suddenly, he touched a warm object with his fingertips. That was an inscribed jade slip. That was the inscribed jade slip that tore through the space and summoned him. There was still Heshi's blood on the inscribed jade sleeve. Nan Gongyu only felt as if there was cold water pouring down his head, calming down the lust elicited in his body. He suddenly raised his hand and slapped his face ruthlessly. A low-pitched voice with a strong heartache and guilt, "What the hell am I doing?" Yes, what was he doing exactly? Knowing that Sheer was drugged, knowing that she was seriously injured, and her breath and spiritual power were weak. How can I take advantage of someone and want to occupy her in this way? Nan Gongyu wanted Heshi very much to the extent that he almost went crazy, but he wouldn't do it in this way absolutely. Having an outdoor sex was an insult to Sheer. He would make Heshi his own, but he would marry her in a decent way and make her his legitimate wife. Instead of taking advantage of her unconscious state while disregarding her safety and will. Nan Gongyu took a deep breath, condensed a cold ice water, and poured it on himself ruthlessly. Only then it cooled down the aroused desire completely. He hugged Heshi, who was struggling, and released his spiritual power into her, trying to know what poison she got. Although Nan Gongyu did not have a doctor grade, he had been sick for a long time. Although he did not have superb medical skills, he still had some understanding of various strange poisons. However, when spiritual power got into the body and felt the weird little bug in Heshi's veins, Nan Gongyu's pupil shrank suddenly. Voodoo. She wasn't drugged, instead she is cursed by voodoo. Feng Lianying, this vicious woman, dares to treat Sheer like this. Nan Gongyu took a deep breath again, suppressing the violent and destructive killing intention. He raised his hand to gather a cloud of spiritual power in his palm. If at this time someone could see the spiritual power condensed by Nan Gongyu, they would scream out of shock. Because the spiritual power turned out to be pure black like a thick cloud. It was slowly hovering in the palm of Nan Gongyu, looking extremely horrible and strange. As soon as this cloud of spiritual power appeared, the offspring voodoo that was originally lurking in the heart of Heshi was agitated. As if it was terribly afraid of this back spiritual power, but it was eagerly and involuntarily approaching. The dark spiritual power was unique in the Miluo continent. The legend about this power was even rare. This unique spiritual power was the favorite of all dark flora and fauna and bugs. But at the same time, voodoo insect was extremely afraid of this dark power because the voodoo insect that survived by devouring other insects could instinctively realize the horror of this dark spiritual power that would devour them. Yes, the most terrible thing about the dark spiritual power was that it could devour all dark creatures that were a lower class than the power and transform them into one's own cultivation. The dark power in Nangong Yu's hands carefully entered Heshi's body. The offspring voodoo couldn't bear it anymore. It finally came out of Heshi's body, trying to escape. However, Nangong Yu's action was extremely fast. He took out a palm-sized jade box instantly and contained the offspring voodoo, which was almost invisible to the naked eye in the box. Without the torture of offspring voodoo, Heshi's expression soon ceased to be painful and tormented, and her complexion slowly returned to normal. Nangong Yu carefully placed the sleepy Heshi on the soft lawn before slowly standing up. His gaze focused on the jade box containing offspring voodoo. When he opened the jade box, a dark red bug inside shivering in fear. Love-devouring voodoo. It turns out to be love-devouring voodoo. Nangong Yu's eyes flashed with murderous intent. His handsome face was as horrible as Ashura. He didn't expect that the poison he hated the most, the poison that had killed his mother, was now planted in Sheer. If it weren't for the pair of mother love-devouring voodoo's level was still very low, Sheer would probably be dead under the torment of the voodoo before he could come to help her. As soon as he thought of the possibility of losing Heshi, Nangong Yu's hand holding the jade box trembled. He slowly walked toward Feng Lianying and Nie Jinchen, who were unconscious. The icy spiritual power dropped and poured on Feng Lianying and Nie Jinchen. Feng Lianying trembled, moaned, and opened her eyes slowly. Nie Jinchen also woke up quietly. He saw Nangong Yu, and he quickly spoke in a tremble, "Nangong, listen to me, I really didn't, brother Yu." Feng Lianying was trembling as she wanted to say something. Nangong Yu interrupted them coldly, "Where did you get this love-devouring voodoo?" Feng Lianying was stiff, and she looked ugly. Love-devouring voodoo is taken out by Nangong Yu. Isn't it mean that that bitch is fine now? She is no longer under my control. Nangong Yu saw that neither of them spoke, then he hit their dantian with his spiritual power. Suddenly, Feng Lianying and Nie Jinchen both made a howl like a pig being slaughtered. Nie Jinchen lay on the ground, clutching Nangong Yu's robe corner, crying and begging, "Nangong, no. King of Hell, let me go." Love-devouring voodoo was found by Feng Lianying. "It's not related to me." Nangong Yu's eyes looked at Feng Lianying. Feng Lianying stared at Nie Jinchen fiercely, trying to say something to plead with Nangong Yu. When she saw Nangong Yu condense the cloud of second spiritual power, she turned pale and quickly screamed. It's my master who specially gave it to me to deal with Shiyu." "Your master? Thousand Poison Valley's master?" Yes. Yes. Feng Lianying replied without hesitation. "My master loves me most. He will not let anyone who hurts me live. Brother Yu, I know you will get sick every year. As long as my master is willing to help, you will definitely be cured. Brother Yu, you have to know how to choose is the best for you." Nangong Yu sneered and slowly said, "What about Mother Voodoo?" "Why, what Mother Voodoo?" Seeing Feng Lianying's eyes flickered, Nangong Yu didn't speak with her anymore. He suddenly took out a small fabric-woven bag from Feng Lianying. The bag had a strong spirit. After opening the bag, a small red bug crawled to Nangong Yu's hand. Feng Lianying's eyes widened in horror. When she saw even the Mother Voodoo didn't dare to cause trouble in Nangong Yu's hands, her voice trembled. "You, what do you want to do?" "Love-devouring voodoo is cultivated specifically by my master. Only I can use it, even if you take it." "Only you can use it?" Nangong Yu sneered. "Since you like love-devouring voodoo so much, why don't you taste it yourself?" After speaking, under the horrified gaze and scream of Feng Lianying, Nangongyu flicked his fingertips and the offspring voodoo flew into Feng Lianying's body at a speed invisible to the naked eye. Feng Lianying was stiff at first, and her eyes were filled with terror and despair. Immediately afterward, her face became flushed. She kept moaning, and she started to tear off her clothes like crazy. Feng Lianying's clothes had been cut to pieces when she was hit by Nangongyu's sword strike net. Now that she ripped it, her body was naked quickly. Feng Lianying's eyes were blurred. When she saw Nangongyu's figure, she rushed toward him. Brother Yu, I want you. I'll give myself to you. Nangongyu kicked her away, then he looked at Nye Jinchen with the gaze that was colder than the devil. Do you not want such a good opportunity? Nye Jinchen stared intently at Nangongyu who kicked Feng Lianying away, but she did not know the pain. She still moaned like a bitch as she was rolling on the ground. Her chest was undulating, and her eyes were full of lust. The next moment, he rushed out, pounced on Feng Lianying, and pressed her under him. The miss of the Feng family, who treated him like a dog and looked down on him previously, was now moaning shamelessly underneath him. She even wrapped her legs around Nye Jinchen and kept rubbing her body against him. Under the torture of love-devouring voodoo, the lofty ice lotus fairy was nothing more than a woman who let him play at will. Nye Jinchen growled, ripped off his clothes, and completely owned Feng Lianying. After Nangongyu said that to Nye Jinchen, he turned and left. He wasn't interested in seeing the faces and behavior of the two people, and he didn't want Sheer to stay in this dirty place. However, after taking a few steps while holding Heshi, Nangongyu took out the mother voodoo, and there was a faint sneer on his mouth. Things are not over yet. Didn't Feng Lianying find so many people to bully Heshi? Then, I will keep those people. I believe that when Nye Jinchen cannot satisfy Feng Lianying, those few scums who wanted to humiliate Sheer will definitely come in handy. However, Nye Jinchen is a gold core stage, so he isn't afraid of letting his spirit being sucked by the offspring voodoo. Those who are only at the foundation establishment stage and meridian stage, I don't know if they will be sucked by offspring voodoo into an empty dry shell. Of course, I will definitely satisfy Feng Lianying's wish to use the recording talisman. Nangongyu spat out black gas on Mother Voodoo, then he kept the Mother Voodoo and quickly left with Heshi. Heshi woke up slowly in the warm spiritual power. The pain in her dantian and 5 internal organs was soothed under the slightly cool spiritual power. It became extremely comfortable as if she was soaked in the hot spring. Heshi slowly opened her eyes. The first thing she saw was Nangongyu's pale face. Seeing her waking up, Nangongyu's eyes were beaming with joy. Her hand that originally held her suddenly tightened. Heshi's memory was disrupted, and she almost thought she was seeing hallucinations. Then, she slowly recovered her memories. Those painful and desperate scenes that made her powerless came into her mind. She even planned to sacrifice herself to die with the enemies. However, she was really unwilling to let Feng Lianying, the main culprit, escape. But all of a sudden, Nangongyu appeared. Without any sign, he appeared from the sky like an immortal god or demon, saving her out of this abyss of despair. Sheer, how do you feel? When Nangongyu saw her staring at him silently, he thought she felt painful, so he could not help showing anxiety on his face. Do you still feel pain? Nangongyu, Heshi said softly. Her voice was hoarse and trembling. Is it really you? It's me. Nangongyu hugged her, bowed his head and kissed her forehead gently. Sheer, it's me. Heshi froze for a moment. She suddenly hugged his waist, burying her face in his arms. Her body was shaking slightly. Nangongyu felt ecstatic when Heshi took the initiative to hug him. This was the first time Sheer being intimate to him. However, after feeling the coldness and trembling of the girl's body, all the joys were replaced by heartache and guilt. Sheer, don't be afraid, I'm here. No one can bully you with me. Heshi just hugged him tightly and didn't speak for a long while. The girl's body was soft and fragrant. Nan Gongyu felt her body curve that was clinging onto him tightly. He felt aroused for a moment. However, he took a deep breath and suppressed the turbulent tide of desire. Nan Gongyu, the low voice brought a girl-like grievance and coquettishness. It was soft and cute. It was like a feather ticking his heart. I thought I would never see you again. Nan Gongyu held her tightly in her arms and said softly, "Sheer, I said that you are my wife. You are destined to stay with me in this life. Even if you arrive the end of the earth or the hell, I will surely chase you back and take you back to me. Therefore, you will see me forever." Heshi's petite body trembled slightly in his arms, and it took a long time to slowly release him. The small face was still calm, but those beautiful phoenix eyes were slightly red as if she had just cried. Heshi, whom Nan Gongyu knew, had always been calm and proud. Even if she was drenched in blood, she would never cry. But this time, she even cried. For a time, Nan Gongyu felt only the inexplicable killing intent and violent circling in his mind. There was more pity that made his heart tightened. He lowered his head and kissed the girl's dark hair, warm cheeks, and finally stamped on the pink lips. Unlike in the past, Heshi did not struggle again this time, but she held Nan Gongyu's neck and accepted his kiss. Nan Gongyu's pupils shrunk slightly. His eyes was flashing with incredible ecstasy and excitement. He pressed the girl's back with one hand and pressed her firmly against him. Their kiss became passionate and aggressive. Heshi instinctively wanted to escape, but how would Nan Gongyu give her the chance? He hooked her fragrant tongue and sucked sweet liquid from her mouth, making every inch of her breath have his taste. Heshi was in a daze being kissed. She only felt that her body was hot, and her thought was full of the reddish handsome face of Nan Gongyu, and the way he descended from the sky and rescued her from the abyss of hell. Whether she wanted to admit it or not, this man had invaded Heshi's closed heart with an overbearing attitude and gentle pampering. If she doesn't see him, she will miss him often. She would be worried if she knew that he was doing something dangerous. She would be jealous and angry to see him standing with Feng Lianying. When she thought of despair, the person she thought was still him. Nan Gongyu. Can I really believe this person? Can I really open my heart to love this person? Heshi thought for a moment, then there was a sudden glance of determination in her eyes. Since she really had feelings for Nan Gongyu, then why did she have to worry so much? This was never her character, right? If one day, Nan Gongyu betrayed her, then she would castrate him to vent her hatred. Thinking of this, Heshi no longer hesitated. She hugged Nan Gongyu tightly and indulged in his stormy passion. For a long time, the lips were separated. Nan Gongyu's eyebrows were sweet and tender. He gently stroked Heshi's soft hair and whispered, "Sheer, are you willing to marry me and be my wife?" Heshi raised her eyebrows at him. Her eyes were full of cunning expression. "It's not easy to marry me. My possessiveness is very strong. I will not allow my husband to have any kind of ambiguous relationship with any other woman. I will never allow polygamy. If I find out my man betraying me, I will probably castrate that scum." Nan Gongyu scratched the tip of her nose and chuckled, "Bad girl, I never had any woman before meeting you. There will only be one queen in the future, and I will never look at other women anymore. Is this okay?" Heshi flickered her eyes. She lowered her head and grabbed his slender fingers to play gently, but she said coquettishly, "Okay, now you're in the inspection period. I allow you to be the boyfriend of Nalan Heshi." Nan Gongyu's fingers looked very nice. They were fair and slender, and the joints were clear, making her feel inexplicably secure. Boyfriend? Heshi's cheeks were reddish. She coughed lightly, then she turned her eyes to the other side, that is, the relationship before the marriage. Seeing Nan Gongyu looking at her in a shock, Heshi's ears became hot. She pretended to be angry. "Why, you don't want to? Even if you don't want to, it is my first time to have a boyfriend." Before she could finish, Nan Gongyu blocked her red lips. It took a long time for him to release the girl whose cheeks could drip red water, then he got close to her ears and said in an undertone, "As long as it's Sheer's command, your husband will always listen." Heshi's face was redder. She glared at him fiercely, then she thought of something. The blush on Heshi's face suddenly faded, and her eyes became colder than the ice sword. "One more thing, I'll tell you right now. No matter what your relationship with the Feng family is, and whether the Feng family has done you a favor, but I will never let the Feng family go. The shame they have done to me today, I will make them pay back for 1,000,000 times." Heshi's eyes stared coldly at Nan Gongyu. She thought Nan Gongyu would frown and would be put into a difficult situation. Who knows that Nan Gongyu's face showed a pampering smile. He said after a while, "Sheer, rest assured, Luli's sect and Feng family will soon disappear. Anyone who tries to hurt Sheer man, I will never let go." Nan Gongyu's words made Heshi startled. She didn't understand what Nan Gongyu's words meant. What does he mean by Luli's sect and Feng family will soon disappear? She wanted to ask more, but Nan Gongyu suddenly showed a weird smile. He said faintly, "Sheer, don't you want to see the end of the people who just hurt you?" After Nan Gongyu finished speaking, he took out an inscribed jade slip with weird shape in his hand and gently injected his divine sense and spiritual power into it. Heshi was stunned. She knew this inscribed jade slip, and no one in Miluo continent did not know it. This was the identification and traction inscribed jade slip of entering the boundless black market, virtual space. With it, anyone could look up goods, purchase magic weapons, and even participate in virtual space auctions. But why Nan Gongyu wants to enter the black market now? Inscribed jade slip was activated, and Nan Gongyu and Heshi soon appeared in a virtual space. Before Heshi had time to ask questions, she listened Nan Gongyu smiling slightly. On the boundless black market, there are often people who sell strange things, such as video recording talisman. Because of the scarcity of recording talisman, the videos on the black market are often bought and viewed by many people. If the videos are shown to thousands of martial artists, and they are played in real time, then it is even more fascinating and popular. What's more, the price I set for this video is exceptionally low. It is only 10 yuan crystals. I believe that today there must be thousands of people who buy and watch. Heshi wanted to ask what kind of video it was, then she saw a light shone in the virtual space of black market. It was followed by a familiar scene. In the messy valley, the sun had set, but in the light of moonlight and stars, everything still looked very clear. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.